Mom, look at that. Dad told me a secret. My daughter said, pulling at my sleeve. Looking in the direction she pointed, I saw my husband's smartphone, its case and screen shattered from the accident. Then she pointed at the messenger icon, saying, "This." Wondering what was going on, I cautiously opened it, asking, "What's this?" I immediately stripped off all the patient pants my husband was wearing, checking every nook and cranny, and there it was. I couldn't help but cover my mouth with my hand. My name is Heather. It's been a few years since I got married, and now we have one child. My daughter's name is Amy. She goes to the nearby kindergarten and loves her friends, being a favorite among the kindergartners. After graduating from a pastry school, I started working at a restaurant and met my husband, Richard, there. He was 4 years older than me, a mid-level chef who was bright, handsome, and popular among the part-time girls who often asked him out for meals. So when Richard and I, who were plain and unremarkable, announced our marriage at work, our colleagues and customers were quite surprised, and some of the girls even harassed us. Upon finding out about the pregnancy right after the marriage, I quit my job and dedicated myself to childcare for a while. Then, when Richard turned 30, we opened a cafe on the ground floor of our house. Richard, who had always dreamed of having his own shop since childhood, I remember seeing his face sparkle like a boy when he saw the finished interior. To support him, I helped out at the cafe alongside childcare, focusing on new menus and attracting customers. Our cafe was located in the middle of a residential area, so during lunchtime, it was mostly occupied by housewives. Taking note of this, we started hosting a simple cooking school at the cafe on our day off once a week. Rumors spread about being taught by a good-looking former restaurant chef, and to my delight, the cooking school now has a long waiting list of students. The cake recipe you taught us last week was a big hit with my son and husband. That's great. Feel free to come for lunch with your family next time. Our chef will surely be delighted. Of course. Customer feedback like this is what motivates us more than anything, my husband said cheerfully while finishing up the cooking, humming a tune. Every time I witness such moments, I feel truly grateful from the bottom of my heart that we were able to open this cafe. The management of the restaurant was on track, and with Amy starting kindergarten this spring, I was looking forward to working harder. But just then, unfortunate news reached our family. Every time I witness such moments, I feel truly grateful from the bottom of my heart that we were able to open this cafe. The management of the restaurant was on track, and with Amy starting kindergarten this spring, I was looking forward to working harder. But just then, unfortunate news reached our family. A call came to the shop informing us that Richard's father had suddenly passed away from an illness. His father, who was still active as a business owner and in good health, had never seemed sick to us, so his death was unbelievable to our family. I urged my husband to quickly inform the rest of the family, but I could see a slightly bitter expression on his face. I immediately knew who he was contacting by that expression. It was Richard's brother, John. Although Richard and I are 4 years apart, I've heard from my husband in the past that he had a troubled past, causing trouble at school and work many times, not to mention the numerous times he had run-ins with the police. Since then, neither my husband nor I had any contact with him, and my husband had been avoiding us meeting John. However, it seemed like that wouldn't be the case this time. After a brief conversation over the phone, my husband's somber expression conveyed a warning: the funeral is coming, but his face also warned, be careful of him. My husband's strong reaction made me curious about what kind of person he really was, but just mentioning John's name from my mouth was enough to sour his mood, I'm sure. We started preparing for the funeral in earnest the next day, but there was much more to do than I had anticipated. Time flew by, and before I knew it, the funeral was over, and Richard's father's ashes returned to my husband's family home. The atmosphere remained somber even after we returned home, so my husband and I tried to distract ourselves from the sadness by reopening the cafe the next day. Our customers seemed to have been waiting for the reopening, as the day went by in a blur of busyness, and I felt like I couldn't remember much about my father-in-law. As I was about to let myself succumb to exhaustion and sleep without thinking about the sadness, I couldn't. Because as closing time approached, the last person my husband would want to see arrived at the shop. Long time no see, Richard. Well, I did see you yesterday, but you came all the way to the shop. How about serving us dinner for two? Hey, Rachel, it's fine to have dinner here tonight, right? Huh? In this shabby place? Well, whatever. By the way, this place is so small. It was Richard's brother, John, and his wife, Rachel. They sat down at a table without permission and started looking at the menu. While muttering, "Troublesome guy came," Richard came out of the kitchen. "What are you here for?" "I'm pretty sure I told relatives not to give you the address of our shop. Besides, we're already closed today, so please leave." "Well, it's not that simple. I have something important to discuss. I came all the way here. You seem to be running your own shop and making quite a bit of money without any stress, right? While we work desperately every day and only get peanuts for pay. So, it wouldn't be a problem for you to just hand over all of Dad's inheritance to me, right? It's enough that you say you'll give up all of the inheritance." While saying this, Richard continued to look at the menu without looking up. It seems John came to persuade us because he wanted to monopolize the inheritance. I wouldn't just say okay to that kind of talk. The inheritance will be distributed as planned among the siblings. Whether you agree or not doesn't matter, and this isn't a place for you to be. Please leave. As Richard replied, John looked up from the menu and glared silently at Richard, then kicked the table hard with his foot. I was surprised by the sudden action, as the wooden table crashed loudly onto the floor, menus and decorations scattering around. "Richard, can't you just listen to what I, your brother, have to say? You've been disowned by Dad once. You're no longer my brother. You're a stranger." Despite John appearing to be at the peak of anger, Richard remained calm, not changing his expression. I see. I understand your position well. However, you'll regret defying me." Turning red with anger, John grabbed Richard's collar. After saying this, he and Rachel left the shop. The floor looked scattered as if a storm had passed, and the shop fell into silence. The only relief was that Amy was already asleep in her room and wasn't involved in the commotion. But the real storm began the next day. The next morning, when I went out to open the shop, I found large graffiti sprayed on the shutters. What's this? It's terrible. Insults like "terrible food" or "never coming again" were written in red letters, standing out. I immediately reported it to my husband and tried to clean the graffiti, but soap and water alone couldn't remove it. Reluctantly, we contacted a professional cleaner to have it cleaned. Furthermore, during the day, we were asked by customers, with quite anxious faces, "Hey, I want to confirm something. Is it true that you use expired ingredients in this shop?" This happened several times. When I asked them for more details, it seemed that someone had posted on the internet that they had stomach pains after eating our food, or that the food smelled rotten when they ate it. I heard that there had been an increase in the number of word-of-mouth reviews on the internet, which stated things like, "I had stomach pains after eating our food." I was concerned because there had been a large increase in the number of word-of-mouth reviews on the internet. Panicked, I explained that we never serve dishes that endanger customers' safety and that there had been an increase in prank reviews on the internet lately. However, all the customers seemed to remain suspicious. If there really were cases of food poisoning, it would be a big problem, but so far, there had been no reports of such patients from the health department. I was convinced that it was the work of those two. The harassment continued to escalate, with silent calls, negative posts on social media, and even spreading rumors deliberately tarnishing our reputation in front of the shop. Although the number of customers gradually decreased, regulars and acquaintances who knew us well increased their visits to the shop, bringing along friends, showing their support. For my husband and me, it was deeply appreciated and heartwarming. However, no matter how much they supported us, the harassment didn't stop. If the harassment was directed only at me and Richard, we could endure it. But if it turned against Amy, it would be irreversible. Once I started thinking that way, I couldn't sleep at night out of fear, and I couldn't focus even when Amy was at kindergarten, and my husband seemed to be in the same state. After discussing with Richard, we decided to give a portion of the property to John and Rachel before the harassment got worse and Amy was put in danger. One day, I went to the usual market in the morning for shopping. I thought there would be few customers on a weekday, but I felt a strange unease as I hurried back to the shop to make it in time for opening hours. Despite the opening time being near, the shutters remained closed. Feeling odd, I went around to the back door and entered the shop, but the room was eerily quiet, and Richard was nowhere to be seen.
"Mommy!"
I heard Amy's voice from the back of the shop, so I quickly put down my things and headed towards the direction of the voice.
"Amy! What are you doing in such a dark place? Weren't you supposed to go to kindergarten with Daddy?"
Amy shook her head anxiously. "No, you see, Mommy, I dressed myself, but Daddy went outside. So, I waited here." Feeling sorry for how long she must have been alone in the shop, I instinctively hugged her tightly. "I see. You did a great job waiting alone. By the way, why did Daddy go outside?" Daddy and Uncle John and Aunt Rachel were here, and they all went out to play, leaving me behind." The names that came out of Amy's mouth made my eyes widen. My heartbeat accelerated, and a vague sense of unease swelled within me. "I'm sorry, honey." I sat Amy down on a chair and hurriedly took out my phone to call Richard. But he didn't answer the phone at all. I tried calling again after hanging up once, but it was still no good. They were taken away by those people over the inheritance issue. Then how should I go about finding them? With John's violent and volatile nature, involving the rough and tough police would be risky. What if he does something to my husband? Should I contact the police just in case? As panic gripped me and my mind raced, it was Amy's voice saying, "Mommy, I'm hungry," that brought me back to reality. I had left breakfast to Richard, thinking I'd be back from shopping in time, but it seems he left before feeding Amy. There's no way we can open the shop today. After temporarily closing the shop with a sign outside, I returned home to prepare breakfast for Amy. As I sat at the table to eat with her, I glanced at the clock and saw that it was nearly noon. Just as I was about to check my phone for any missed calls from Richard, an unknown number called. "Hello. Who is this?" "Hello. I'm with the paramedics. Are you Richard's wife by any chance?" The word paramedic sent a chill down my spine, and the unpleasant thought I had just imagined resurfaced in my mind. While clutching my smartphone tightly, I quietly listened to the person speaking. After the conversation ended, I quickly took Amy and left the house. My hand holding Amy's was visibly shaking. According to the paramedic, Richard had darted into the street and collided with a truck. He had suffered severe injuries and was currently being transported to the hospital by ambulance. With my head in a panic, I drove to the hospital, desperately trying to calm myself with the thought that Amy was in the car. Upon arriving at the hospital, I rushed to find Richard, but a nurse informed me he's in critical condition and undergoing emergency surgery. No time for details. Amy and I were left waiting, and I stared intently at the operating room light. I'm not sure how much time passed, but I noticed Amy had fallen asleep using my lap as a pillow. From the window at the end of the hallway, I could see the evening sky tinged with red. My hands, still shaking since noon, gently stroked Amy's head, making a soothing sound. Then the light went out, and the doctors and nurses emerged. "Are you his wife?" "Yes, that's me." "How is Richard, my husband?" "Please be assured, your husband has pulled through. However, he has not regained consciousness yet. It all depends on his physical strength and vitality now."
"Oh no!"
Richard was moved to the ICU, and I sat beside him, staring at his face, showing no signs of awakening. Feeling drained and overwhelmed by anxiety about the future. I wondered what would happen if Richard never regained consciousness. No, I couldn't afford to think like that. I gripped my husband's hand, trying to dispel the anxiety and praying for his safety. Then I noticed Amy tugging at the sleeve of my shirt.
What's wrong, Amy? Are you tired?
Shaking her head, she pointed at Richard's smartphone with a cracked screen and case. Look at this. Dad said it's a secret from Uncle John and the others. Then she pointed to the Line app icon, saying, this one. Suspicious, I hesitantly opened it. I saw a barrage of messages that seemed like threats sent from John, now called John, to Richard. Scrolling through, the messages appeared to have been sent over several days. But among them, I discovered a terrifying image and involuntarily stopped scrolling. What is this? Amy and a utility knife? The image showed a man's hand holding a utility knife and another of Amy playing in the kindergarten playground, taken from a distance with a zoom lens. Beneath the images was the message, your thigh won't be enough. Hand over all the inheritance. I quickly removed Richard's hospital pants and found a cut among the injuries, likely from a knife. Feeling a deep sense of horror about what John had done, I involuntarily covered my mouth with my hand. I knew he was a violent man, but I never imagined he would actually take action. Thinking there might be more threatening evidence, I checked Richard's smartphone again. As I suspected, there were messages left in other apps, including a recording of this morning's conversation between Richard and John. I needed to confirm what happened at the store. With trembling fingers, I pressed the play button. The content was indeed from this morning, but it was so horrifying that my face turned pale, and I accidentally dropped Richard's smartphone due to my trembling fingers. As I sat in the chair, dumbfounded, John and his wife entered the hospital room. Instead of showing concern for Richard's condition, John blurted out. Given his condition, he's got a few days left at most. Have you contacted the funeral home yet? When is it going to be? We're busy, so you better hurry up and decide. Wow, he's a goner for sure. My condolences. While they casually asked me, I was seething with anger at John and his wife. Clenching my fist, I glared at John. What's with that look? What do you think we did, huh?
What did you do, you ask? Just stop showing your rotten nature. John, he left all the evidence to tell me what you two did.
I blurted this out and played the earlier conversation from Richard's smartphone again. The recording started with John and his wife coming to the store while I was out shopping. You two again. What do you want this time? We came to negotiate directly since you won't hand over the inheritance, no matter how long we wait. You saw the photos we sent, right? After a pause, there was a commotion as Richard hurriedly left the store. The sounds of Richard's heavy breathing and footsteps on the ground suggested he was running. Probably to get away from the store to avoid harm to Amy. However, John's voice could be heard shouting, "Wait, you bastard," followed by, "Do you care what happens to your daughter? You know she's still inside the house, right? We won't guarantee her safety unless you hand over all the inheritance." Fine. I'll give you all the inheritance. Just promise me and get out of my family's life. Right after Richard screamed that, the sound of a truck's brakes and the screams of passers-by filled the air. Then the recording stopped. It's because you two came to the store that Richard. Before I knew it, I was crying and shouted at John and his wife through tears.
What are you talking about? There's no evidence we pushed him.
How strange. She never said anything about being pushed, did she? Suddenly, John turned around at the sound of an unfamiliar voice from behind. I'm from the East Police Station. We received a report of an attempted murder, so I came immediately. The detective introduced himself while showing his badge. Unprepared for the police's arrival, John and his wife froze, their expressions turning pale. Indeed, after listening to the recording, I had immediately contacted the police. Are you the one who called, Heather? Yes, that's me. Thank you for coming all the way to the hospital. Hearing this, John and his wife muttered "you jerk" under their breath and glared at me with bloodshot eyes. They wanted to hear more details, so I explained everything meticulously, showing the evidence I had collected from the past harassment to today's incident. While I was explaining, another detective arrived and handed over a laptop, saying, "Here's the surveillance footage. Please check it." The detective who was listening to me checked the footage, which was indeed from the scene of today's incident. Fast forwarding to the time of the incident, Richard, followed by John and his wife, appeared. It seemed like there was a commotion, and it looked like John's wife pushed Richard. "By the looks of it, you two are wearing the same clothes in this footage, so it's definitely you two, isn't it?" Though it was clear they were the ones in the footage, John and his wife remained silent, unwilling to admit it. Then, Rachel, who had turned pale since the police arrived, spoke up.
"No, that's wrong. I didn't push him, I just reached out because he was staggering."
She hysterically raised her voice, trying to make excuses, but the police presented more evidence. The detective switched to a different footage, this time showing a truck's dashcam. In the video, Richard appeared on the left side of the screen, and she was seen forcefully pushing Richard's back, causing him to tumble in front of the truck. After seeing this footage, do you still claim you just reached out to him? What do you say? Unable to make any more excuses, Rachel collapsed to the floor. At that moment, miraculously, Richard woke up.
"Richard, are you okay? I'll call the nurse right away."
Awakening, Richard started to move his mouth as if trying to say something. "Let me explain." "Richard, you can talk? Take your time, it's okay." Hearing my words, Richard slowly nodded and began to reveal the truth about this morning's events. After rushing out of the store, he was quickly caught up by John and Rachel. He disclosed how they had threatened him. He also revealed that John grabbed Richard, who was not responding to his demands, and that during the struggle, Rachel pushed him as hard as she could.
"Don't bullshit us. We don't know anything."
John, denying the truth that Richard had told, began to act out and tried to resist when a detective attempted to restrain him, eventually hitting the detective in the face. His assault led to an arrest for obstructing law enforcement, as John was subdued and arrested by several detectives. Rachel, too, kept screaming, "It wasn't me. I just reached out to help," but was eventually handcuffed and taken away. Having witnessed everything, I suddenly felt all strength leave my body and slumped into the chair. "Richard, why did you keep quiet about being slashed?" "I didn't want to worry you, Heather, since the harassment continued and you were always there for the cafe and me." "I'm sorry," Richard said, looking remorseful, and I was left speechless. Later, the police revealed that the motive behind John and Rachel's actions was indeed to target our family's wealth, resulting in their disinheritance. John, even after being disowned, had not held a steady job and had been lavishing money on a hostess at a familiar club, accumulating debt, while Rachel indulged in luxury goods with the borrowed money. Eventually, they resorted to loan sharks and were chased by debt collectors, growing tired of such a life when they heard of the father's death. Their share of the inheritance would only cover their debts, leading them back into a cycle of borrowing. That's when they targeted our wealth, thinking they could use Amy as leverage to make us comply with their demands. They forced Richard to promise the inheritance, but believed that if Richard himself were gone, they could get all of the wealth unconditionally. Due to the egregiousness of their harassment and motive, John and Rachel received a prison sentence and would be incarcerated for several years. Weeks after the incident, my husband's injuries finally healed, and we were able to reopen the cafe. Amy could safely attend kindergarten again, and I believed our family could continue to live peacefully. Yet I carried an unsettling feeling since the day Richard was brought to the hospital and I had to remove his pants to check his thigh wound. However, I couldn't pinpoint the source of this unease and felt troubled. One night, Richard went out to celebrate his recovery with friends and came home drunk late at night. He fell asleep on the sofa, and as I thought it must have been fun after a long time and started to change him into his pajamas, I realized what had been bothering me. My husband's leg hair, which had always been there, was completely gone, leaving his legs as smooth as a woman's. While it's true that the trend of beauty-conscious men has grown, Richard was never the type to engage in such grooming. He kept himself clean because he worked in the kitchen, so why would he suddenly go for hair removal? Suspicious, I consulted with a friend knowledgeable about such trends on the same day. She told me that nowadays, women prefer androgynous men who are careful about their appearance over the traditionally masculine ones with leg and chest hair. So, many men nowadays opt for hair removal to be more attractive. For attractiveness, huh? I see. Thinking this was my chance while he was drunk, I decided to check his line messages. I easily unlocked his smartphone with his birth date. Opening Messenger, I found a chat with someone named Karen at the top, saying, "I had a great time today. Will I see you next at the cooking school? Can't wait." It was clear they had been interacting until just before. This Karen, a student who has been attending every week despite the cooking school being notoriously hard to book, was someone I remembered well. She was noticeably younger and cuter compared to the other mostly older students, standing out significantly. It seemed the supposed celebration with friends was a lie, and he had been enjoying his time with Karen from the evening until now. Unbelievable. All the memories of nursing him every day in the hospital, and helping with the cafe, flashed back in my mind, fueling a resolve that he would never be forgiven. I meticulously saved the remaining chat history with Karen and their couple photos, well organized in an album, onto my smartphone. The cafe that we used to run together as a loving couple now seemed irrelevant. Strangely, all the emotions of supporting each other through life with my husband were turning into nothingness. Preparing for my revenge against my husband's betrayal, I meticulously planned for days without missing a detail. Then, on the day of the cooking school, where I had gathered ample material for retaliation, an unsuspecting Karen arrived smiling and greeting the other students. "Hello," she greeted me cheerfully, her face seemingly smug with triumph. When the time came and everyone, including my husband, was assembled, my revenge commenced. As usual, I handed out papers to the students, supposedly with today's recipe.
Today's recipe uses familiar ingredients, I said while replacing the handouts with the exchanges and photos of my husband and Karen, and distributed them to everyone, including them. They quickly realized what it was and started shaking. "What is this doing here? What is this? Don't look, everyone!" The other students, recognizing my husband and Karen, began murmuring, asking questions like, "Isn't this the chef and that student? What's going on?" Given his image as a handsome, former restaurant chef who seemingly ran a cafe harmoniously with his wife, the housewife students started a backlash. "I never thought he was like this. I will never visit the cafe again. This is sickening," they said one after another, and everyone but Karen left the place. "Well, everyone's gone now. The rumors about you two will spread quickly, and this cafe is finished. Can you leave now? I don't want to see your face anymore. After all the care I gave, what a way to repay me," I said coldly, avoiding eye contact with Richard as I put away the kitchen tools the students were supposed to use. What have you done? How could you do something that drives away the customers we've painstakingly gathered?" Richard yelled, perhaps out of embarrassment or anger, or maybe both, as if he was about to hit me. "I'm not joking. I have no intention of continuing with this cafe, and I plan to shut it down immediately. Besides, you're worried about the cafe after cheating on me? I've completely lost respect for you. What does that matter now? We were finally getting the business on track. You can't just shut it down. Who do you think built this place?" Who built it, indeed. It's true you wanted to own a cafe, but I was the one who actually paid for the construction of our home and cafe. Yes, I was the investor in the cafe. It turned out after we got married that Richard, who had worked in restaurants, was bad with money and had hardly saved anything. I had saved money from my days working at a restaurant, so when Richard wanted to open a cafe and asked me to sponsor it, I agreed. I hate to say it now, but I've already put the building up for sale. Tomorrow, the agents will come to clear everything, so please pack your things and leave today." What? I haven't heard anything about this. And packing up today, how can you spring this on me all of a sudden? Then forget the stuff, just get out now.
Can't you understand I can't stand to breathe the same air as you for one more second? Why don't you stay with Karen? With a look of realization, Richard turned to Karen. Karen, please help me. I have nowhere to go if I'm thrown out of here. You said the other day you wanted to break up with him and live with me, right? Desperately, my husband grabbed Karen's arm, pleading. What? No way. I'm annoyed being bossed around by that woman. Besides, I live with my boyfriend. You were just a convenient fling because you're somewhat handsome, old man. My husband, whose recent exchanges with Karen on Messenger seemed like a lie, was left gaping in disbelief at her attitude. Wait, Karen! Ignoring Richard's call, Karen left the cafe without looking back at him. Then he turned to me. Heather, I was wrong. I apologize for everything. Please let's start over, I beg you. I financed your dream, cared for you, and this is how you repay me by cheating? I can't imagine living with you again. Besides, I've already found a new place for Amy and me to live. We're moving out tomorrow after finalizing everything. I've prepared the divorce papers, just come to pick them up tomorrow. Goodbye. With that, I left Richard alone in the cafe and went upstairs to our home, locking the door behind me. I didn't want Richard to enter ever again. After a while, I saw Richard leave the upstairs home, allowing me to sleep peacefully that night. The next day was busy with movers and waste disposal services clearing out our home and the cafe, leaving it empty. When Richard contacted me to pick up the divorce papers, I hurried downstairs with Amy. We had already packed, ready to move to our new home. I seemed even more resolved than the day before, but I no longer needed to worry. Here, it's filled out, just file it, I said, handing him the divorce papers and leaving with Amy. I filed for alimony against Richard and Karen. Despite Richard's inheritance, he had debts in his name, not related to the cafe, and his daily life became a struggle with repayments, alimony, and child support, leading to a poor lifestyle and despair. Of course, he does not have the financial strength to open a new restaurant, so he is now doing field work in a rural area. He didn't return to restaurant work, seemingly too proud to start from scratch. I thought little of him, but as long as he paid the alimony and child support, it didn't matter to me. When I was getting used to my new life, I opened a cafe in a quiet town. It was small compared to my previous cafe, but I consulted with an architect and built it with great care so that I, now a single mother, could operate it by myself. Perhaps because of its mom and pop concept, which makes it easy for customers with children to visit the restaurant, it is becoming so popular that it has even been featured in the local newspaper. Amy was thriving in our new, nature-filled town, and watching her grow was my joy. Today's dinner is your favorite hamburger, Amy. How about that? Yay! Mammy's hamburgers are the best in the world. I want ice cream for dessert. Our happy and cheerful conversations made each day special, with her innocent laughter warming my heart. Wanting to protect her smile forever, I held this strong desire close as we walked hand in hand to the park. My name is Kinsley Smith. I'm a housewife celebrating 20 years of marriage. Our family is harmonious, and my husband David cherishes us deeply. I've lived my life devoted to my family, trusting in David. Our twin sons, for some reason, are prodigies with IQs of 150. They easily got into prestigious universities and are currently interning at the major corporation where David works. Though we've faced storms at times, our household has been smooth sailing. However, a storm that seemed it might sink us has arrived. It happened one afternoon. I decided to check out a slightly different store and extended my trip to a station a few miles away. As I wandered around with heavy bags, I encountered a man resembling my husband. Oh! What caught my attention was the woman next to him. She was noticeably younger than me and radiated an unreal beauty. This stunning woman was leaning on my husband, who's nearly 50, arm in arm, smiling blissfully. Is this? The words affair and infidelity came to mind. Unable to confront them, I ended up just taking a photo. By evening, drained of the energy to cook, I sat on the living room couch, staring at the photo on my smartphone. Then, I knew David had come home.
What's wrong?
There he was, seemingly unchanged. As if the man I saw today was someone else. But I had looked at the photo over and over. I even zoomed in. The suit, the bag, the hairstyle. In the photo were unmistakably David's.
Did you happen to walk in front of the station a few miles away today?
Attention emanated from him.
Well, what time? In the evening.
Not sure.
She's very beautiful, isn't she? Almost doesn't look like an ordinary person, so beautiful. Like an actress or a model. Yes. That woman, yeah. She must be a model associated with the company. We're planning to launch a new commercial, so she's probably involved in that.
Is that so? But you two seemed quite close. I showed him the smartphone I was holding. After a moment of silence, David confessed everything. Hearing the truth, I was speechless. I can't cook tonight. I'm sorry. Please eat out. Okay. With a guilty look, David turned and left the house. As he did, the tears I had been holding back started to flow. My sons returned home as David left and noticed me crying, but I couldn't respond to their questions. However, seeing the smartphone on the table, they were speechless.
Mom, this.
I've been deceived for 15 years. That's all I could finally say.
What do you mean? He's been cheating?
Hey, Jack. This woman. Yeah. Mom, what are you gonna do? Even if asked what to do, I have no answer. David said he loves this woman. But he also said he couldn't destroy our family. Yet, recalling the happy look on his face at that moment, it's hard to believe those were his true feelings. Maybe he really wants to live his life with her. Such thoughts keep coming to me. I always thought I was loved by my husband. I believed that living with David was my entire life. And yet, to think it has come to this. Maybe it's better to separate, for David's sake. Perhaps that would be best for him. When did Dad start doing this? 15 years ago, right? She said she's been deceived for 15 years.
Oh, did she mention that?
Listen properly. But it's too shocking. Mom must be more shocked. Yeah.
How old is this woman? Hard to say, she's incredibly beautiful. Looks to be in her early 30s.
She's 40.
40, huh? She's quite old then.
A real piece of work.
To think she'd get involved with someone like Dad. She could be one of the world's 7 wonders.
Dad wants to live with this woman.
Eh? Really?
Yeah, he said that. But he also doesn't want to ruin our lives.
That's impossible. You can't have both. Maybe if you're really rich. Right, an average employee can't manage that. Where does Dad's heart truly lie?
His true feelings? Yeah, if his desire to live with her is real, holding him back won't make anyone happy.
So.
But why? I wonder why I never noticed that Dad's heart wasn't here. Was I too happy?
Too happy?
Yes, maybe I was so happy that I thought this was normal and couldn't read Dad's feelings.
Mom, you're too kind. Dad's the one who cheated, you have every right to be angry. His feelings don't matter.
But I'm the one who let it happen.
Mom did everything a wife should do. There's no way he had complaints. You always make delicious meals. This is Dad's fault. That's right, Mom, you shouldn't blame yourself.
But Dad's face was so happy. I've never seen him look that happy. Maybe he's happier with her than with me. But holding him back would only cause him pain. It's better if we split up, isn't it?
Eh?
Dad wants to be with her. If I wish for Dad's happiness, I should step aside, shouldn't I?
Are you serious? Even though Dad is the one at fault.
I think it's for the best.
Well, if Mom thinks so, we can't stop her, but…
Yeah, thank you. I think it's best to separate for Dad's sake too. It's for his happiness, more than staying with me. Even though I think this, the tears still come. It's like losing the air around me, and without air, you can't breathe. He was that important to me, and to think it has come to this.
Mom, are you really okay with splitting up?
Yeah, it's inevitable. For Dad to be happy, it's better if I step back. I believe that's what happiness is. Even if I've been deceived all this time, I've received so much happiness from him.
Okay, then, Mom. You mind if I show him hell? Eh? Hell? Yeah, that's right. It's crazy that only Mom has to draw the short straw for Dad's and that woman's sake. If we're splitting up anyway, might as well make Dad taste hell. That's right. If we're doing this, might as well teach him a real lesson.
Hearing my son's words made me think my decision to separate for my husband's sake was a lie. Splitting up for his happiness is just a nice idea. Inside me, there's hatred for being deceived for 15 years. It's definitely there. Yet, why was I trying to suppress those feelings? If I could really show him hell, if I could really drop him into it, then I want to do that. I want to make my husband, who betrayed our family, suffer just as much.
So, Mom, what do you think? Well, but how? That's what we need to figure out now. After all, we don't know what weaknesses he has. First, we need to thoroughly research to find out what method would be most effective. That's right. Even if we set a trap, if it doesn't cause enough pain, it's a waste. Yeah, I agree. We have to make him regret it to the bone. After all, he made Mom cry.
My sons, contemplating what they said, left my side and went into their rooms. Even as I thought about preparing food for them, I couldn't bring myself to move and ended up crawling into bed. No matter how much I try to be strong, the tears just keep flowing. Despite all the pain I'm feeling, where is my husband now, and what is he doing? Maybe he's gone to her. Such thoughts make me suffer even more. If possible, I wish I could go back to just a few hours ago, not knowing any of this, and return to the life of cooking for my husband and gathering around the table with my family, as usual. But that's impossible. Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? No matter how much I regret, it's futile and I can't stop the tears. The next day, my sons said they had work and left the house. David never came back. Always making sure his shirts were washed and ironed, the David who didn't return must be wearing crumpled shirts by now. I wonder where he is and what he's doing. Such thoughts come to mind, but there's nothing I can do. After seeing my sons off, all I could do again was crawl back into bed. Unlike me, my sons had begun to take decisive steps towards revenge.
Looks like Dad didn't come home last night.
Yeah, seems like it. That's why Mom is even more upset.
There's no point in getting down about it. Can't help it. We just have to do what we can for her. I wonder if Dad's at work? Yeah, I saw him earlier. Working in his crumpled shirt. If he didn't come home, that figures. So, how are we gonna get our revenge? We need to figure out his moves first. Right. By the way, that woman in the photo, that's her, isn't it?
One of the sons glanced towards the woman in the photo.
Yeah, 90% sure it's her. It's tough to say 100% because it's a photo. What do we do? Follow them on the way back? Sounds good, I'll follow Dad. Then, I'll follow her. Hard to say if they'll meet today though. No, they'll meet. They were caught by Mom yesterday. Or, Dad might have gone to her place last night. Even so, it'd be hard for him to come back home, so he'll likely go to her place. Indeed. That's some deep analysis. You were thinking the same thing, weren't you? Yeah, I was.
And so, the sons decided to follow them separately. One after Dad, the other after the woman. However, despite leaving separately, both ended up at the same apartment building.
Whoa! Jack! What's up, Sebastian? Looks like this might be her place, huh? Maybe. I couldn't find a name on the mailbox. Maybe it's a room just for their secret meetings? Could Dad have rented it? Should we check with the real estate agency? Yeah, I'll look into something else. Something else? Now that it's clear they're together, we need to tighten the noose. Right, makes sense. I'll leave that to you then. I'll handle this side.
While attending university lectures, the two spent a week investigating David and the woman, managing their part-time jobs as well. It seems they found out several things, and on the night before Monday, they shared it with me.
Mom, could you come to the office tomorrow? To the office? Yeah, there's something important. I'll show you Dad heading for hell tomorrow.
But there's something I need to ask of you, the sons said, and then they shared their plan with me. The next afternoon, just as they had asked, I went to the office, and my sons were waiting for me at the entrance.
Mom, we're gonna meet with the president now, but make sure you do what we asked you yesterday.
Yes. I'll be fine. The sons exchanged looks and then got on the elevator to head to the top floor. When they arrived at the president's office, there was David's lover, Nevaeh. Just like when I saw her a week ago, her beauty was mesmerizing. The president, though frowning, unsure of what was happening, still carried an air of dignity.
What's this about? Jack, Sebastian? Sorry to trouble you. We have something very important to discuss. But we can't proceed without one more actor in our play. Actor?
At that moment, the door to the president's office was knocked, and David entered.
David. Nevaeh.
The two of them calling each other's names in front of the wife. I felt dizzy.
What's going on here?
It seemed the president was the only one who didn't understand. No, I didn't understand either. What exactly was the relationship between this Nevaeh and the president?
First, let me introduce. President, Director Nevaeh. This woman is our mother, Kinsley, the wife of David. Oh, is that so? Mom, this is the president and his daughter, Nevaeh. His daughter? Yes, Nevaeh is the president's daughter and also a director. And she's also Dad's girlfriend. That's correct. What? Sorry. You're involved with my daughter while you have a wife? President, please hold off on the anger. It seems Dad and Nevaeh have been together for 15 years now. They've been living like a couple, spending time together in an apartment they rented after work, then going back to their respective homes. Is that so? Nevaeh, you.
I'm sorry.
Are you two in love, without a doubt?
Yes. I love David. Even after 15 years, I never once thought about breaking up.
Is it because you want to marry him?
Yes, of course.
Nevaeh. David is a married man.
Sorry, but I can't stop these feelings. I'd rather be the woman in the shadows, as long as I can be by David's side.
Do you want to marry Nevaeh, Dad? Hey, Jack! It's okay, you can tell us your true feelings. That is...
David seemed unable to say the truth in this situation. Saying yes would hurt me, and saying no could provoke the president's wrath. Considering his future, he likely couldn't express his true feelings.
Do you want to be with Nevaeh, Dad? Or was she just a fling? It was not just a fling. How could anyone be in a relationship for 15 years just for fun? Did you know Nevaeh was the president's daughter when you started dating her?
No, it wasn't like that. When I first started dating Nevaeh, she was a radiant 25-year-old young lady. I thought there's no way such a beautiful lady would date a plain guy like me. But I hoped at least she would have dinner with me, and when I asked, she accepted. Then I hoped we could drink together, and she agreed to that too. With each occasion, my feelings grew stronger.
And Nevaeh, did you feel the same?
Yes. I knew he was married. Even though I knew it was wrong, I couldn't help falling for him. Just having dinner with David was enough for me. But once one wish was fulfilled, I found myself wanting more, like having drinks together. Before I knew it, David had become a significant part of my life, and our relationship deepened. Oh, I'm sorry. Nevaeh apologized for the depth of their relationship. It was after we became involved that she first told me she was the president's daughter. What a thing to do! To steal another woman's husband. Shameful! I'm sorry. But I couldn't stop my feelings. I thought many times that we had to break up, but...
So, both of you want to be together?
Yes. I'm truly sorry. If I'm just speaking my feelings, then yes. But when I think of his wife, I know it's something we shouldn't wish for.
And you, David?
David looked at the president and then at me. The president had an indescribable expression on his face. Well, that's to be expected. His daughter is in a romantic relationship with a married man, a company employee. But if his daughter has dedicated 15 years to a man only to be discarded now, that would be truly painful. As for me, I neither showed anger nor smiled broadly.
David, Nevaeh is being honest with her feelings. You should respond to that.
Yeah, sorry. I do want to be with her.
Kinsley, if I can be with David, I'll support his career advancement. I've already been doing everything I can for him, but I'll strive even more for his sake.
So, you're asking for my forgiveness? Yes. Yeah, Nevaeh has been really good to me. I even got a recommendation for a director position because of her.
There's a director position offer?
Yeah, it wasn't confirmed yet, so I hadn't told you, but it's true.
I see. Congratulations. So, it's just Mom left. What do you want to do with Dad? Continue together or...
Jack looked into my eyes and nodded. It was a signal for now's the time. Nevaeh is such a wonderful lady, and I've already spent 20 years with my husband. He says he's happy with Nevaeh. I saw them together the other day, and he truly looked happy. I can't crush that happiness out of selfishness. Therefore, I'll step aside. I've kept you waiting for a long time, Nevaeh, but please be happy with him from now on.
Madam, are you really okay with this? Yes. If I wish for my husband's happiness and Nevaeh's happiness, that's the natural answer.
Thank you. I'm sorry for my daughter's outrageous selfishness.
If Nevaeh is willing to marry and Dad has the intention to, it's only right for Mom to gracefully step aside. We'll be here for Mom, so there's nothing to worry about. However, in exchange, please pay alimony and cover our college expenses until we graduate. And we'll also ask Nevaeh for compensation. After all, even if it's Dad's fault, the fact remains that a family was broken. Understood. I might not be able to fully compensate, but I'll do what I can. I'll transfer the house to you and the rest of the assets. I don't need them, so do as you please. No, if you're going to let my daughter marry you, I'll also provide a monthly allowance to ensure she can live comfortably. That's really something. Thank you. Mom hasn't worked for a long time, so hearing you say that will definitely help her. So, please don't hold a grudge against my daughter. Yes, of course.
I bowed respectfully, never imagining that such an arrangement would be made.
David, if you marry her, I promise you the director's position. President. Thank you so much. That's great for you, David. Yeah, thank you, Nevaeh. Thank you, Kinsley. David, promise you'll stay by her side forever. I'm counting on you. Yes, of course.
David, Nevaeh, and the president were all thrilled. But this couldn't be the end. It wouldn't serve as revenge or send anyone to hell. The son smirked and moved the conversation to the next phase.
So, Dad, you'll also pay off Nevaeh's debts, right? You're becoming a director, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? Debts? Yeah, about $200,000, right? Why so much? Well, Nevaeh has undergone gender reassignment surgery. It's not something to bring up now, but you must be well aware of it. Dad, there's no need to be shocked. You love her, after all. What do you mean? Nevaeh was originally a man. She felt a disconnect with her body and underwent gender reassignment surgery. The cost of the surgery and travel expenses led her to take on debt. Additionally, Nevaeh, when she was a man, had a very masculine appearance, so she also underwent cosmetic surgery to achieve her current look. You know a lot about it. Sorry, we had it investigated. All those expenses combined amount to about $200,000. And being a woman, the costs for cosmetics, clothes, bags, and so on. To maintain the image of a president's daughter, you inevitably go for high-end products, right? Yes, that's correct. So, the monthly payments are quite significant. But don't worry. After all, Dad's going to be a director. Right. Nevaeh's original name was Gabriel, you know. Gabriel. Yeah, such a good name, right? They wanted a strong boy so badly. They named him with that hope in mind. Is that so?
David seemed completely unaware of this matter and turned pale. Moreover, David has prejudices against gender changes and homosexuality. This must truly feel like being cast into hell. And at this point, there's no way he could say he wants to back out. Well, normally, a parent would cover it, but I just can't understand men becoming women. So, I told him if you really want to do it, you have to find the money yourself. And he actually did it. I never thought he'd take out loans to undergo the surgery. The president wanted to raise you as a manly man, huh? Yeah, exactly. Things don't always go as planned. When I heard a boy was born, I dreamed of him taking a wife, having grandchildren. I thought Gabriel would become president one day, and the next generation would be led by my grandchildren. Haha. Right. But then, being told she wanted to become a woman, it felt like everything vanished. I thought we had to choose the successor from among the employees, thinking no man would accept a woman who had been a man. I was prepared for her to remain single all her life. Yet, to find someone who'd stay by her side for life, how fortunate. Now I can rest easy. That's right. Since David is Jack's and Sebastian's father, if Nevaeh marries him, they would be my grandchildren. With their high IQs and capabilities, they could one day sit in the president's chair too. Wow. The company's future is secure. The president was overjoyed. Then Jack presented the divorce papers and asked for my signature. With everything already decided, I signed without hesitation, and the paper was passed to David, who signed it with a trembling hand. Since we can't register the marriage until 1 to 2 weeks after submitting the divorce papers, how about we write the marriage registration now, as it's a joyful occasion? That sounds good. It's best to do it here while everyone's present. Following Jack's suggestion, the president accepted, and Sebastian and I clapped our hands. Forced by the situation, David, with a shaking hand, signed the marriage registration form. Congratulations, I said to Nevaeh, who responded with a happy smile. Now, you two are essentially husband and wife. Congratulations! Isn't that wonderful? However, unable to escape, David was crying alone. David, are those tears of joy? Nevaeh asked, but my sons and I knew better. These weren't tears of joy. That night, when David came back to pack his things, we helped to quickly get him out, but he broke down crying. No. Why do I have to marry a man? Why is she a man? Well, you thought she was a woman for 15 years, so it's fine, right? You couldn't tell the difference. But even if she looks like a woman, she's still a man. I don't want to marry a man. You're becoming a director, there's no need to complain, right? And you won't find such a beauty among women.
What are you talking about? She's only beautiful because of plastic surgery. Maintaining that will cost a fortune.
You're a director, it's fine. She's a director too, no problem. Thanks to Dad, we're gonna be presidents. It's a win-win. Dad's affair turned out to be a jackpot for us. We don't even have to job hunt.
I'm not happy at all. You might be, but I have to marry a man.
That's the bed you made for yourself.
Maybe, but I can't accept this. Her name was Genta, for crying out loud. Totally a man.
It's cruel to say that. Her heart is female. And her body too. She's a beautiful woman now. My stepmother. Indeed. Our stepmother, and the president's daughter no less. We hit the jackpot.
No. Kinsley, let's start over. Please, I beg you. I'll apologize, just give me another chance.
What about your job?
I'll quit. Better to quit than to marry a man.
If you quit, the boys won't become presidents. You've been with her for 15 years, you'll be fine. You've managed to deceive us all this time, just deceive yourself from now on.
Deceive myself?
Yeah. Just convince yourself she's female. Do it for your sons. Trick yourself into it.
No.
Despite his protests, we quickly packed his belongings and kicked him out. Later, a grand wedding took place, and David became Nevaeh's husband. He smiled throughout the ceremony, but he wasn't happy. Yet, he married her and started a new life as a couple. However, David never rose above the director position. Meanwhile, Nevaeh became a board member, showing her prowess. Being busy, she couldn't do the housework, leaving David, who had never done it before, to take over domestic duties. Despite how busy Nevaeh is, one might expect her to lend a helping hand to David, but that was not the case at all. Despite her kindness before, Nevaeh turned into a tyrant, losing all her former gentleness. She seemed more like a beautiful man now. Consequently, I started receiving frequent complaint emails from David. Their content was always, "This is hell. I have to embrace a man at night, and I can't escape. This is pure hell." Receiving such emails, our family would read them together, laughing. I received a substantial alimony and a significant monthly allowance. Moreover, a significant amount of money is deposited into our accounts every month as living expenses. The boys secured jobs at the company and were promised the presidency. My life is secured until the end. Truly, I am the victor. Today's wine tastes exceptionally delicious. How long are you gonna stay with such a loser? Huh? No point in hiding it now. My son is probably onto us. I don't know how much he knows. I didn't think I was having an affair while pregnant with my daughter. He has lovers, 7 of them. Yeah, if that's the case. Then, at the worst possible timing, my husband comes home. What are you doing there? Just having a chat. What about dinner? I'll get it ready now. My husband sighs and looks at me with contempt. You better start studying too. I heard your grades are dropping. I was just about to. I'm going to take a shower. You've got that ready, right? Then, in a low voice, my husband mutters. Like a parent, like a child. He's your son too. Did you say something? No, nothing. I was startled. If he finds out, it'll be a hassle again. Then, my husband heads to the bathroom. Continuing our earlier conversation. Yes. I knew that jerk was cheating. Really? Yeah. My son snickers through his nose.
Since when did you know?
When was it?
You could have told me.
No, I was wondering what to do. I've been thinking a lot. And I told you before, didn't I? The baby coming needs a father. But you don't need to hold back anymore. Indeed, I did say that. And my son was looking forward to having a sister. Yet an affair.
Hey!
Then my husband interrupts again.
Can't you hear me?
Suddenly, my fully naked husband charges into the living room.
Where's the shampoo?
It's under the sink in the bathroom.
Make sure you take care of it.
I told you before.
Don't talk back.
My husband, apparently very irritated, waddles back. It's a habit of his. Can't even do that, and what's with that waddle? So creepy.
Hey. I can hear you.
It's fine. But Mom, are you okay with this? Letting that man do whatever he wants. Of course, I want to do something about it. But I've got this baby in my belly, and I can't be reckless. Then, I've got a good idea. I've been itching to take down that lousy dad. It seems my son's sadistic streak has been ignited again.
What are you planning?
I've been thinking about it for a while. The two of us burst out laughing at the unexpected suggestion. What are we thinking? But I've never felt as excited as I do now. My name is Mary, and I've turned 41. Just a homemaker. I married Michael, 5 years my senior, when I was 22. Michael was what you'd call an elite. Our meeting was through matchmaking that's quite rare these days. My father was an executive at a certain company and had quite a network.
How about him? What do you mean, how about?
It seems he's taken a liking to you.
Honestly, even if you say that.
At that time, I wasn't particularly interested in Michael. I wasn't disinterested in marriage, but I strongly wished to marry for love. However, I couldn't resist the fervent approaches from Michael. Eventually, I agreed to marry, but soon realized my misunderstanding. A year after our marriage, we had our son, Tim.
You did well. Thank you. Hold him too.
Yeah.
Isn't he adorable?
Tim grew up healthy. He seemed to have a knack for observing people from a young age, seemingly highly perceptive. He quickly mastered the alphabet in kindergarten. Tim is a genius. To be able to do this at his age. I'm looking forward to his growth.
Yes. He's our pride.
We should try various things for Tim's sake. Michael, getting carried away, enrolled Tim in swimming and piano lessons among other activities. At first, Tim enjoyed himself, but as he grew, his behavior started to change. We noticed it after he started elementary school.
What in the world happened?
At school, with his friends.
What happened?
It seems he laughed when a friend was in trouble.
Laughed? Is that why they called us in?
It's not just that.
Speak up clearly, will you?
Tim apparently found it amusing and laughed when a classmate was distressed about forgetting homework. Not only that, but he also seemed to enjoy hiding things on purpose and watching the situation from afar. When his teacher first mentioned this, I was shocked since we had never seen such behavior at home.
Where's Tim?
In his room. Michael waddled to Tim's room.
Tim! Come out here!
Tim came out of his room with a disgruntled expression.
Why would you do such a thing?
I was just teasing.
You're gonna be someone who leads others in the future. Don't ruin your reputation over stuff like this.
I'll be more careful from now on. Michael didn't seem pleased with Tim's attitude.
What are you sulking for?
Then, Michael attempted to hit Tim.
What are you doing? This is discipline. If a kid doesn't listen to their parents, they need to be taught a lesson. But that's too much. I'll talk to him too.
This is your responsibility as well. After saying that, he went back to the living room. I decided to ask Tim why he did it.
Why did you do such a thing?
Because it's fun.
Fun?
Yeah. Watching them panic makes me feel satisfied. I couldn't believe he was still an elementary student. However, I worried that if this continued, he might do something irreversible.
Listen. It might be fun, but causing trouble for others is wrong. You wouldn't like it if someone did that to you, right?
Yeah. But if someone did that to me, I'd get them back. He replied with a big smile.
That's wrong too. You wouldn't like getting scolded by the teacher, would you?
Maybe. So, what should I do? I was really torn on how to answer. Depending on my response, it could significantly affect Tim's future.
Then, only do it to people who are doing something wrong. And make sure nobody finds out.
So watch them secretly and enjoy? You're the best, Mom.
That's right. Can you promise that?
Got it.
It's late now, so go to bed.
Okay. I went back to the living room. Sitting on the sofa, I felt incredibly tired. So, how did it go?
I talked to him, and he understood.
Good. That's a relief then. However, I had trouble falling asleep that night. I kept thinking about what I told Tim. Was it really the right thing to say? My worries were soon blown away. I was called by his teacher again, but this time for praise. He was showing leadership at school and gaining trust from those around him. For the moment, that was a relief. However, around the same time, Michael said he needed to work harder, and his return home came later.
Aren't you working too much lately?
What are you talking about? Tim is doing his best. I have to do my best too.
Maybe, but...
Don't worry. Just do what you can. The decline had already started by then. I realized it much later. Before I knew it, Tim had grown to be 18, facing college entrance exams next year. It should have been a critical time, but there was no need to worry. Then, something joyful happened to me. I discovered I was pregnant. Pregnant? Are you serious?
Yes.
That's great. Michael didn't show as much joy as when Tim was born. In fact, he seemed almost indifferent. From there, Michael's attitude only worsened. I'm home.
Welcome back.
Huh? Doesn't the room seem dirty? I was actually cleaning, but suddenly felt sick. Are you okay now? I'm much better now. I thought he was concerned. But then you can clean, right? What? Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you get to slack off on the chores. Come on, get moving. Well, I hadn't expected him to say something like that, and I was flustered. Get it done quickly. You're just in the way standing there. I'll do it right away. You haven't even prepared dinner, have you? I nodded meekly. You're really useless. I'll go eat out then. Make sure everything's clean by the time I get back. Michael had just come home but left again. I wasn't fully recovered. Feeling nauseous, I managed to fold the laundry that had been left out. Soon, I started to feel dizzy. I'm home. It seemed like Tim had just returned from his tutoring.
Welcome back. Sorry, I'm feeling a bit sick. I haven't prepared dinner. Don't worry about it. Where's Dad?
He went out to eat a little while ago. Huh? What's that about? Wait, are you doing this because of him? Yeah. He said to have it done by the time he gets back. Tim showed an expression I had never seen before. It was enough to make me feel a bit scared.
Tim? Are you okay? I'm fine. I'll take care of the rest, so you just rest. Thank you.
I decided to let Tim handle everything and sat down on the sofa to rest. I'm not sure how much time passed, but it seems I had fallen asleep. My head wasn't clear, but I could hear Michael and Tim arguing in front of me. Their voices became clearer gradually. Don't meddle in things you don't understand. What are you talking about? Mom is pregnant. Shouldn't it be normal to take care of her? This is pointless. Hey! Running away, huh? Don't talk back. Just do what you're told. Who's going to listen to someone like you? Michael, unbelievably, struck Tim's cheek hard. I could only watch. Tim ended up running away from home. With no one left to direct his anger at, Michael turned his attention to me. This is your fault for not raising Tim right. He's better than you. He grabbed my shoulders and shook me violently. There was a wall behind the sofa, and I hit my head against it with force. I don't remember anything after that. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed.
Why am I here? Mom. How are you feeling?
Not too bad. But there was still a bit of pain in the back of my head.
Why am I here? I got a call from him, and I came to the hospital immediately. Where's Dad? I don't know. He wasn't here when I arrived. What were you doing yesterday? I was at a friend's place. That's good. I'm glad you didn't get involved in anything strange. It's my fault. If I hadn't run away from home, none of this would have happened.
I shared everything I remembered from the day before.
What? When I asked the nurse, I was told you were brought in after falling. Damn. Did he lie?
Tim seemed to lose his cool. Even during their argument yesterday, he was uncharacteristically upset, far from his usual calm demeanor.
Are you planning to stay with him? Why do you ask? Because what he did can't be forgiven. I understand what you're saying. But what about the baby in my belly? A father is still needed, right? You're too kind, Mom.
Sorry. That's just who I am. I wanted to believe in Michael. Perhaps he was just stressed from work. However, the situation was not that simple. I was cleared of any brain injuries and was able to leave the hospital the next day. After being discharged, Tim became even more considerate than before.
Make sure you don't overdo it, Mom. Thank you. You might get irritated too, but try to stay calm. Okay.
Michael, even after I came back from the hospital, didn't show any concern. Instead, he kept piling chores on me as before, deliberately ordering me around for things he could easily do himself. Apparently, he disliked being reprimanded by Tim and would wait for times when Tim wasn't home. Then, one day,
I've got a business trip starting tomorrow. Get my clothes and everything ready. That's rather sudden, isn't it?
Unlike you, I'm busy. I did as I was told and packed his clothes into a suitcase. Then, I found a crumpled piece of paper in the pocket of his jacket. Curiosity got the better of me, and I unfolded it to find a receipt from a motel. Is this?
Hey! Are you done yet? Almost. How long have you been at it?
Michael seemed to have come to check on me. I was so shocked I thought my heart might stop. That receipt was undeniable proof of infidelity. I had a lot on my mind, but for now, I focused on preparing for his business trip. After packing the luggage, a total of 7 receipts turned up from various places. How many more are there? I reported to Michael as if nothing was amiss. What's up?
Nothing, really. Anyway, I'll be gone for 3 days starting tomorrow. Don't slack off just because I'm not around.
The next day was Sunday, and Michael left for his trip early in the morning.
Morning, Mom. Good morning. What's that you're holding? What?
I realized I had forgotten. The motel receipt I found yesterday was still in my pocket.
It's just some trash.
I intended to throw it away immediately but tripped over the trash can and dropped it.
What are you even doing? Sorry. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Thanks.
As Tim was picking up the scattered trash, he suddenly froze.
Something wrong? It's nothing. Dad's on a business trip starting today, right? That's right. For 3 days. Guess it'll be a bit more peaceful then.
Tim's words weren't entirely untrue. In fact, I felt a bit relieved when he mentioned his trip yesterday. Then a thought struck me. What if he's not really on a business trip but meeting another woman? I didn't want to think about it, but I couldn't help imagining the worst. While pondering, I found an envelope on the table. It seemed like Michael had forgotten some documents.
This is important, isn't it?
Yeah.
He must have forgotten it.
Tim suddenly started laughing.
What's so funny all of a sudden? Just thought of something good.
Can you call him for me? As Tim requested, I called Michael. He said he'd come back home right away and hung up.
And? How was it? He seemed pretty flustered.
Nice, nice.
Let's wait for him to come then.
Michael returned an hour later.
Hey! Has anyone seen an envelope around?
Tim shook his head.
No, I haven't seen it. Damn, where is it?
Maybe it's in the study? We had a room that served as a study.
Maybe.
Michael headed to the study. Tim was trying hard not to laugh.
What are you thinking?
Watch this. Tim, without any remorse, ripped up the envelope he had found earlier.
If you do that,
just watch.
I couldn't find it in the study either. Are you sure you haven't seen it? I haven't seen it. If I don't have it, the contract. Isn't it about time for your trip?
Shouldn't you be going?
That's not important right now. The thing is, the trip isn't.
Michael suddenly stopped speaking. Tim didn't miss his reaction.
Was the trip not real? Of course it was.
Michael stormed out of the house, grumbling.
Did you see his face? That panic was priceless.
You saw it too, right?
I saw it, but if we do this...
Oh, this?
It's nothing compared to how he's always treating you, Mom.
I was worried. Was Tim's mischief flaring up again? But Michael's earlier remarks made me suspect he might have lied about the trip to meet another woman. I decided to hire a professional to find out the truth. The findings were shocking. 3 days later, Michael returned home as if nothing had happened.
How was the trip?
The trip? It was okay, I guess. More importantly, you did what you were supposed to while I was away, right?
Yeah.
By this time, I was already 6 months pregnant. My belly was getting bigger, making it harder to move around. This meant I could do less around the house than before. But I had Tim. Thanks to Tim, I could say I was getting by without any trouble. I started to question if continuing like this was really okay.
Mom, whatever decision you make, I'm on your side. Really? Thank you.
Tim has always been observant. Maybe he knew I was struggling with something. For now, I decided to do what I could and went ahead with the investigation into Michael. It was said to take some time, but the wait until the results were known felt incredibly long.
So, what are the results?
This was 2 weeks after I had requested the investigation. They contacted me wanting to report the results, and I went to meet them immediately.
To put it bluntly, your husband was having an affair.
Is that so? Although I had anticipated it, being told so directly made everything go blank.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Also, there's something else I need to tell you.
As he said this, he began to lay out photos on the desk. There were 7 photos in total, all of young women.
No way! As you guessed, all the women in these photos are his mistresses.
I was speechless. I couldn't think of anything. There were also numerous photos of him entering hotels, including some where he was kissing someone in front of a hotel. I stuffed these pieces of evidence into my bag and went home. I didn't know what to do. Showing these to Michael would end everything. But then, something unexpected happened. Look at this.
Is it a celebration? It's not my birthday, though. Once in a while, it's fine, right? And, please pass my regards to your father. To my father?
Yeah.
Just because I'm a good husband.
Michael handed me a large bouquet. I had never received anything so splendid even since we got married. I was genuinely pleased. Afterward, Michael began to take care of me as if he had forgotten all about the affairs. Or perhaps, it was me who had forgotten about his infidelity. Charmed by his sudden kindness, something I hadn't experienced in a long while, and perhaps starved for. His change was so drastic, he seemed like a completely different person. The one not convinced by this was Tim. He's been unusually kind lately, hasn't he?
You mean Dad? I'm sure there's a catch somewhere. What are you talking about? Stop it already! Mom, you're being deceived by him.
You'll regret it for sure.
Enough already!
This marked the beginning of a strained relationship between me and Tim. We hardly spoke anymore, and Tim spent more time shut in his room. However, the true nature of Michael would soon come to light. It happened a week later.
Damn it, why did this happen? It's your father's fault. What? I was supposed to secure a big contract and get promoted. But at the last minute, they switched to another company.
That's something you can't help.
I was nice to you just for this. Did you properly relay my message?
I did pass it on, but
all for nothing, then.
Everything was a misunderstanding on my part. In the end, Michael just ran and went into his study, complaining to me about it, as if it wasn't just his lack of ability. Sitting on the sofa, catching my breath, Tim came out of his room.
How long are you going to stay with such a loser? Huh?
No point in hiding it now. I wasn't sure how much he knew, but perhaps Tim had reached his limit. I hated myself for hesitating even in such moments. But I couldn't betray Tim, who had been so worried about me. The truth is, the words were at the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't articulate them.
I won't betray you, Mom.
Encouraged by his words, I felt a bit braver. Your dad has mistresses. 7 of them. Yeah, if that's the case. Then, at the worst possible timing, my husband comes home, interrupting Tim's words.
What are you doing there?
Just talking. No need to get so irritated.
What? What did you say?
Nothing. His attitude was as domineering as ever. I wondered how one could become so twisted.
What about dinner?
I'll prepare it now. Michael sighed and looked at me with contempt. Can't even prepare a meal properly. Poor child, being born to such a mother. I thought to myself, aren't you the one having affairs? He seemed particularly irritated today, taking it out on Tim as well. You better start studying too. I heard your grades are dropping. I'm about to. Besides, even with the drop, I'm still at the top of my class. Not sure about you, though.
Say that again.
Tim seemed ready for a fight. Never mind. I'm going to take a shower. You've got that ready, right? Yes. And then my husband mutters under his breath. Like a parent, like a child. He's your son too. Tim muttered in a voice so low it was almost inaudible.
Did you say something?
No, nothing. Then Michael headed to the bath. Seeing he was gone, Tim began to speak.
About what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah? I knew that jerk was cheating.
Really?
Yeah. Tim snickered through his nose.
Since when did you know?
When was it? Right, the day he said he was going on a business trip?
The day you shredded that envelope?
That's right.
But how?
Tim began to explain how he found out about Michael's affairs. It was purely by accident when I knocked over the trash can. Among the trash, he found the Love Hotel receipt I had dropped.
Never thought something like that would be mixed in.
And 7 women, I can't believe it. I agree with you there. Really, how stupid can you be at his age? Tim didn't hold back his words.
But you could have told me.
No, I was wondering what to do. I've been thinking a lot. And I told you before, didn't I? The baby coming needs a father. But there's no need to hold back anymore. Indeed, I had said that. And Tim had been looking forward to having a sister. Yet, an affair.
Hey!
Then Michael interrupts again.
Can't you hear me?
Suddenly, Michael charges into the living room fully naked.
Where's the shampoo?
It's under the sink.
Make sure you take care of it. I told you before. Don't talk back.
Michael, apparently very irritated, waddles back. It's a habit of his. Irritated or not liking something, he does that. Can't he do that much himself? And what's with that waddle? So creepy. Hey. He can hear you.
It's fine. But Mom, are you okay with this? Letting that man do whatever he wants.
Of course, I want to do something about it. But I've got this baby in my belly, and I can't be reckless. Then, I've got a good idea. I've been itching to take down that lousy dad. It seems Tim's sadistic streak was flaring up again.
What are you planning? I've been thinking about it for a while.
The two of us burst out laughing at the unexpected suggestion. What a thought. But I've never felt as excited as I do now. We plan our strategy in secret.
Decorating the house with photos of his mistresses would be hilarious, right? Oh, and of course, I'm planning to send them to his company too. I wonder what his face will look like. But there's a problem.
Problem?
No, about what to do with those photos. At first, I thought about hiring a detective to gather them. But then I found out it costs quite a bit.
That's when I remembered the evidence I had kept hidden in the closet.
That won't be a problem. I've already secured the photos.
You mean you've already had it investigated? I completely forgot.
Typical of you, Mom.
So natural, you know?
Anyway, now that we have the materials, it's just about deciding when to do it, right? Then, there's a good day for it.
Next Tuesday.
Why that day?
Because it's someone's birthday. I see. From then on, we eagerly awaited that day. Unaware of our plan, Michael continued to mistreat me, but this time it didn't affect me. Then came Tuesday morning.
When will you be coming home today? I plan to come home early today.
I see. He looked a bit puzzled.
Then, shall we start decorating? If only today were a day off. I'll do as much as I can. I'll come straight home after school. Have a good day.
After seeing Tim off, I immediately started putting up the photos all over the house. The work I started at 9 a.m. quickly passed 1 p.m. Right, I need to prepare that too. Once all the decorating was done, Tim came back home.
I'm home and, wow! When I decide to do something, I do it right. I'll finish up.
Tim took care of the spots I couldn't reach.
This should be good, right?
You're too soft, Mom.
There's still more. I found something funny at a store. That might actually be a good idea.
Could you set this up by the window?
I'll send the photos to his company.
Now, we just had to wait for Michael to come home. He arrived back at 8 p.m.
Then, as planned.
Leave it to me. I headed to the entrance and greeted Michael with the biggest smile I could muster. Welcome home. You seem unusually cheerful. Do you know what day it is?
No.
Today's your birthday, so I got you this.
And I mask?
Just go with it. I led a blindfolded Michael to the living room.
How much further?
You can take it off now. Upon removing the eye mask, Michael was speechless, seeing the walls plastered with photos of his mistresses.
What is all this? This is your birthday present from me and Tim.
The icing on the cake was the letter-shaped balloons Tim had bought. Loser was spelled out in Roman letters on the window.
Happy? Do you like it? Are you kidding me?
Tim then burst into laughter.
Kidding? That would be you. Sorry to break it to you, but we knew all about your flings with those 7 skanks.
Elite?
More like a brainless monkey.
Michael collapsed onto the floor, looking almost tearful, which made us laugh.
Mom, it's meant to laugh.
Oh, right.
Sorry to kick you when you're down, but here's another gift. What now?
A divorce paper.
I've already done my part.
We're leaving now.
Where to? Back to my parents. I can't stay in this creepy house.
You can clean up. As we were about to leave, Michael's phone rang.
Maybe you should answer that. Hello? Yes, what?
Tim and I exchanged glances and high-fived. Michael turned towards us, leaving the phone call.
What have you done? Sent evidence of your affairs to your company. Enjoy?
See you, loser. And so, we left Michael behind. I'll never forget the look on his face when he took off that eye mask. After explaining everything to my parents, they welcomed us warmly.
It seems I was blind to have not seen what a loser he was. Me too. Stay here as long as you like. Thank you.
After Tim's scheme was exposed to his company, Michael was immediately fired. Hearing about it, Tim and I couldn't help but laugh. We could imagine the look on Michael's face when he was fired without having to see it. I visited the lawyer my father recommended to sue for adultery. With all the evidence already prepared, the process went smoothly.
Is this the end?
Yeah. Just the divorce left now.
By the way, Mom, you're quite the sadist.
Not at all. No, you definitely are. You looked even more devilish than me. Perhaps Tim's sadism was inherited from me. That made sense to me. However, Michael hadn't given up and showed up at my parents' house.
What do you want?
Please, let's talk.
The divorce papers? Still at the house.
I had prepared another set just in case. I went to get it and handed him the pen along with the papers.
Sign here first.
That's the condition. All right. Michael signed immediately.
Thanks.
But I'm busy today.
I'll contact you for another place, okay?
Whatever you say. Michael left quietly. Of course, I immediately deleted his contact.
You're not really planning to meet him?
As if.
I'm going to file the divorce papers now. Then he'll be a stranger. And if he comes here, I'll just call the police. So you made him sign by giving him hope?
Exactly.
Let him wait forever for a call that will never come. Mom, you really are a sadist.
Back at my parents', we started living a peaceful life. I eventually gave birth to a daughter, whom I named Senna. The name Senna, inspired by the plant Dracaena, signifies sincerity. I hoped she would grow up to be sincere and discerning. Our family of 3 wished to live happily and closely together forever.
Aren't you eating?
I asked casually, and John looked down as if he were panicking. This place isn't exactly kid-friendly, after all. Everything Ken ordered seemed to be the kind of thing adults would enjoy.
You must be hungry, huh? Let's grab something to eat on the way home.
John nodded slightly at my words. During the checkout, the waitress chuckled as she looked at John.
Not doing it today, huh?
You usually do.
This?
She repeated a motion with her hand, flipping it from paper to rock several times. When I turned to look at John, he was trembling, holding his head.
What's wrong, John? You look pale, are you okay?
I was startled into silence.
Hey, Anna!
He looked up at me fearfully, and as I hugged him, I quickly grabbed our things and stood up.
Let's go, John.
And with that, we hurried out of the place. My name is Anna Turner, and I'm a 33-year-old working at an advertising agency. It's been 11 years since I graduated from college and joined this company. I've gotten used to the work over the years, and I've started to find it fulfilling. Though the job is busy, my income has increased accordingly. I think I'm doing better than others my age. Being in a male-dominated environment, I sometimes feel unwelcome. When someone says, if you keep working like this, you'll never find a husband, it irks me. It's none of their business. I've never been particularly keen on getting married. I've always thought if it happens, it happens. That's when I met Ken. Ken, a client liaison, is also 33, just like me. Being the same age, we hit it off right away. Every time I visited the client, Ken would greet me with a smile. He might come off a bit flashy, but he's friendly and great at livening up meetings, making them enjoyable. Of course, we talked about work, but even after meetings, our conversations never ended. Before I knew it, we were exchanging messages privately and began to dine out together regularly, just the 2 of us. Things moved quickly from there. Ken started making his interest clear. Initially, I only thought of him as a colleague, so I was confused at first and evaded his advances. But upon reflection, it wasn't a bad idea. Having worked together, I knew Ken was competent at his job, and I think his income was about the same as mine. He was clean-cut, and not bad-looking either. Most importantly, I felt really comfortable around him. I didn't hesitate much before deciding to date him. I was actually looking forward to it. If he hadn't said anything, I might have been the one to ask him out. Our relationship progressed smoothly, and 6 months later, he proposed, and we decided to get married. But then, an incredible problem arose.
You're kidding, right?
Come on, don't make such a scary face. One day after work, when I went to meet Ken, he was standing there with a boy who looked about elementary school age. A much younger friend? No, perhaps a relative's child. Had they run into each other by chance? Thinking it was someone related to Ken made me nervous. Feeling a bit intimidated, I approached Ken, and upon noticing me, he smiled sheepishly and said, "Meet my son, John, 10 years old. Nice to meet you."
Huh? Son?
The boy named John awkwardly avoids my gaze. I, on the other hand, ended up staring at him as if trying to uncover some truth.
Wait. I don't understand. Son? What do you mean?
Ken laughed nervously as he grabbed my shoulder. I brushed his hand away.
No dodging the question. What? Were you married before?
Ken looked at me with a puzzled expression. Huh? Did I not mention it? I'm a divorced dad.
I had no idea.
I couldn't help raising my voice. I was on the verge of a meltdown, but seeing John's face, I managed to hold it together. I couldn't lose it in front of a child. I'm going home. I'll contact you later. I was far from calm. I barely get the words out. After all, how could anyone stay calm upon suddenly being told by their fiancé, "I'm a divorced dad," and then bring the child to a date without any warning? What was he thinking? As I turned to leave, Ken hastily grabbed my arm.
Hey! It took a lot for me to bring John here, and you're just gonna leave? That's not fair. Think about how John and I feel. Huh? Then think about how I feel. You could have at least told me before bringing him along.
I might have been shocked, but it would have been easier to accept than being surprised like this. I didn't even know he was divorced. I needed some time to prepare mentally.
What if I told you beforehand and you decided to break up with me just because I'm divorced with a son? That would be unbearable.
Ken glanced at John, then started stroking his head. Looking every bit the father. Look. John is such a good kid.
I was confident that once you met him, you'd feel a maternal instinct too.
Huh? He said it proudly, but that's not the point. He was making a lot of assumptions. I wanted to just walk away, but when my eyes accidentally met John's, I stopped. He looked nervous and quickly looked away, but his face still had an innocent look to it. John isn't to blame, but if I walked away and he felt responsible for that, what then? 10 years old. An age where he can understand things to some extent. I wouldn't want him to think he's a burden to his father's marriage. In the end, the three of us ended up having dinner together at a restaurant. Indeed, just as Ken said, John was a very good kid. In fact, he was so well behaved it felt almost unnatural. He would eat quietly during. Ken would talk to him, and he'd respond, but he wouldn't initiate conversation. Is it normal for a 10-year-old to be this calm? It was his first time meeting his father's partner. It wouldn't have been strange if he harbored negative feelings towards me. But I couldn't sense any emotions from John at all. It was as if he had given up on everything. Having met him, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Later, when I met with Ken alone, I asked him,
"Hey, has John always been like this? Mature for his age, or should I say quiet?" "John?"
Ken seemed pleased that I was interested in John.
"Oh. You're curious, huh? Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be our son if we get married, right?"
Despite feeling betrayed by him keeping his divorced single dad status a secret, I couldn't bring myself to break up with this carefree man. His demeanor was comforting. I had never met someone as easygoing as Ken.
So? What about it? Was he nervous around me?
Nah, that's just how John is. He used to be a bit louder, I guess.
Mireille used to scold him a lot.
Mireille, his ex-wife's name, perhaps? Come to think of it, I still know nothing about Ken's previous marriage. He is so open. I wonder if it's okay to ask.
Hey, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but what was your ex-wife like?
I asked carefully, and Ken didn't hesitate to tell me. She's 2 years older than me. Just looking at her, she's pretty. Really beautiful, but man, her personality is tough. No matter how much I earned, it was never enough for her.
Huh.
If he's praising her looks that much, she must be quite a beauty. As someone who's not very confident in my appearance, it kinda bothers me. Maybe sensing my unease, Ken hugged me from behind. Don't worry. You're my best partner.
Yeah.
I just can't dislike him. He always knows what to say. Besides, having a divorce and a child isn't like he cheated or anything. It just never came up before. Maybe him telling me before we got married actually shows he's sincere. I convinced myself to believe that. After that, I met with John several times. He was just as quiet as the first time we met. Getting married means considering important matters. I hoped he would get used to me, but what if his quietness was because he disliked me? Thinking it over didn't help, so when we were alone, I took the plunge and asked him.
If you're against it, we don't have to get married. What do you think?
I wondered if it was right to ask a 10-year-old, but I didn't want to marry without knowing his true feelings. John hesitantly answered, making my heart race.
I don't mind. I'm just shy. That's a relief.
And a few weeks later, we got married. Not exactly a honeymoon phase, but the start of a new family life. I was anxious. Sure, Ken is one thing, but what about John? Is he okay with me? To him, I'm practically a stranger, a stepmom. I hope we can get along, but even I haven't fully grasped suddenly having a 10-year-old son. John, at 10, must be even more anxious. I hope to alleviate any anxiety and get along well. That's what I was thinking. But contrary to my thoughts, problems came from an unexpected direction. You're kidding, again? I muttered to myself in response to a message from Ken on my smartphone. Maybe Ken is the type who doesn't take care once he's got it. After we got married, Ken's behavior changed drastically. Overtime and drinking parties became the norm. Without any guilt, he'd even come home in the morning. If this were a boyfriend. Well, even then, I'd be a bit unhappy, but now that I'm his wife, it's unbearably frustrating. Ken practically just comes home to sleep. John and I, still not fully accustomed to each other, were left alone without choice. Even if it were just me, but with growing John around, I couldn't skimp on meals. Even mealtimes became a source of stress.
How was school today? It was normal.
The conversation just doesn't flow. I feel bad for John, but I just can't think of topics to discuss with a 10-year-old. About a month into this routine, I finally lost my patience and confronted Ken. Enough is enough. You're out drinking every single day. It's ridiculous. Huh? It's not like I enjoy drinking. There's this thing called socializing in the world. You're in sales, you should understand. It's not just about drinking parties. There are days when work just doesn't end. If that's the case, I'm also swamped with work. Since we got married, I've been rushing home early because I worry about John, even when it means I can't work overtime. I've been starting early in the morning or using my lunch breaks to catch up. Lately, my lunch breaks have been all about working with one hand while eating sandwich with the other. You used to have time to go on dates with me before we got married. It's not even the busy season now, so what's keeping you so busy? Come on, answer me. Ken fell silent for a moment, looking slightly annoyed, then let out a small sigh and smiled. My bad. I guess I've been taking you for granted. Let's go out for a meal, the three of us,
this weekend as an apology. And I'll try to adjust my work schedule from now on.
Really? You promise? It's been a while since we've eaten out. I wonder where he'll take us. I can't help but feel excited, even though I know it's a bit silly of me. Ken took us to what looked like a very expensive high-end restaurant. Just the exterior of the place was overwhelming. It felt like the kind of place where important people might have meetings.
Hey, this looks expensive. Are you sure?
I whispered, not having any idea how much it might cost. Ken then covered his mouth, chuckling softly.
Stop it, you're embarrassing. You're making it obvious we're not rich. We stand out. To you, this might seem like a dream place. But I'm used to it.
I could feel my face heating up with embarrassment. He didn't have to say it in such a demeaning way. Thinking back, the places Ken and I went to before getting married were all reasonably priced. Even the place where he proposed was an Italian chain restaurant. So I was just worried that he was stretching himself too thin by bringing us here. And yet, he says he's used to it. Who has he been coming here with? I've never been brought here before.
All right.
I muttered an apology, following a waitress and Ken. Right this way. The smiling waitress led us to a private room, as was to be expected. This, and include the usual. Ken ordered with ease, as if he'd done it many times before. It looked like a place that could be used for entertaining clients, so maybe he's been here for work a few times. It would be a waste to sulk after being brought here, especially to such a high-end place that I might not get to visit again. I've got to enjoy it. Indeed, every dish that came out was delicious.
Eat up, so you have no regrets.
Ken was in a good mood, drinking his alcohol. He glanced at me and ostentatiously lifted his glass. If only you could drink too.
Indeed, it's a shame.
I've tried alcohol a few times after turning 21, but it seems I just don't have the constitution for it. It's not that I can't drink, I just don't enjoy it. Plus, alcoholic beverages are generally expensive. If I'm going to spend the same amount of money, I'd rather have juice or water. Since realizing this, I've stopped drinking alcohol, both privately and at work. Watching Ken now, I do feel a bit envious of how well he seems to enjoy his drinks, but I'm sure I wouldn't find it as tasty even if I tried the same.
Just a sip? The expensive stuff is good. I'll pass. Missing out on this, you're really losing out on life.
His drunken banter is irritating. Wasn't today supposed to be an apology? To blow off the bad feelings, I gulped down my ginger ale when a concerned voice came from beside me.
Are you okay?
John was looking at me with furrowed brows. Maybe my irritation showed on my face. It's embarrassing to have worried about him.
I'm fine, really. Thank you.
I waved my hands dismissively and then realized something. John hadn't touched his food at all.
Aren't you eating?
I asked casually, and John looked down as if panicked. This place certainly isn't kid-friendly. Everything Ken ordered was more suited to adult tastes. If only they had French fries or burger, something that appeals to everyone, but of course, there was none to be found. You must be hungry, huh? Let's grab something to eat on the way home. John nodded slightly at my words. I felt relieved to get a response. Looking at Ken, he had just finished the last of his drink in his glass. With all the food on the table eaten, it was about time to head home, so as not to keep John waiting. Ken, that was delicious. Thank you. When I hinted at leaving, Ken seemed to get the message and placed his empty glass on the table.
Then, shall we head home?
Yeah. As we stood up to leave, Ken suddenly exclaimed, "Oh."
What's wrong? I saw someone I know at the entrance. I'll just go say hi, so please settle the bill with this.
Got it. As I called the waitress over and paid the bill with the wallet Ken handed me, she chuckled at John. Not doing it today, huh? You usually do.
This?
The waitress gestured with her palm towards us, flipping it between rock and paper. Was it a goodbye gesture? John isn't close with me, has such a cute interaction with the waitress. It's a bit frustrating. After taking the payment, the waitress said, "Please wait a moment," and left the room.
"So, John, you've been here a few times, huh?"
As I turned back to John, he was trembling, holding his head.
"What's wrong, John? You look pale, are you okay?"
I caught myself mid-sentence. What the waitress did earlier wasn't a goodbye gesture.
"Hey, Anna."
As John looked up at me fearfully, I quickly grabbed our things and stood up.
"Let's go, John."
We hurried out of the room, intending to leave before Ken returned. However, as we approached the exit, I spotted Ken near the entrance. This way, he'd notice us while we were collecting our jackets.
"We have no choice."
We gave up on our jackets and ran through the courtyard, over the fence, and escaped from the restaurant. After walking for a while, we managed to catch a taxi and dashed into a nearby hotel. Throughout the escape, John was silent. I bought some water and handed it to John. As we sat down and he drank water, the stiffness in John's face finally seemed to relax a bit.
"Are you okay now? Feeling better?"
"Yes." That's when I brought up something I had been curious about.
"That thing the waitress did earlier, it was a hand signal, right?"
John slowly nodded. From an open hand to bending the thumb and then covering it to make a fist. At first glance, it just looks like changing from an open hand to a fist, but in reality, this gesture means "please help me." So, it meant that John, when coming to the restaurant with Ken, for some reason, relied not on his father Ken but on a stranger, the waitress. This suggests that maybe Ken was causing John some kind of harm. That's why I decided to flee the restaurant with him at that moment.
"Could it be that Ken did something to you?"
No. I wasn't harmed by anyone.
"Then who?"
After squeezing his eyes shut and taking a deep breath, John slowly started to explain. The truth is, the story John told me was far beyond anything I had imagined.
"To think that Ken could be that kind of person."
"I'm sorry. My dad caused trouble, even though you're so kind." The sight of a 10-year-old apologizing on behalf of his father was heartbreakingly sad. At the same time, I felt a surge of anger towards Ken. Either way, we can't let this go on. John and I began to plan what to do next. During our conversation, Ken called several times.
"We still have more to talk about, but it looks like we should head home soon."
After paying the fee, we left the hotel without staying.
"What were you guys doing?" "I wanted to introduce you to my friends."
When we got back home, Ken complained.
"Sorry. I got a stomach ache and ended up staying in the park's restroom near the restaurant." "There are restrooms in the restaurant too." "Well, you know, it's embarrassing in such a fancy place."
"Fine. Whatever." He mumbled, but it seemed like I managed to deceive him. Then, I started preparing for the coming days. About a week later, with my preparations complete, I made a suggestion to Ken.
"I feel like drinking after a long time." "Oh. Cool. Let's go."
John was going to stay at a friend's house that day, so Ken and I planned to go out for drinks.
"It's rare for you to drink. You usually don't."
"I usually don't feel like it, but I suddenly wanted to."
"This is the first time I'm drinking with you, Anna."
Ken was excited and kept drinking one after another. He also kept urging me to drink at the same pace. "Are you sure you can handle all this?"
"Don't worry. If Anna passes out, I'll take care of you."
"And if you pass out, Ken, I'll take care of you." We continued to drink, teasing each other. A few hours later, we were at home. Lying on the bed, Ken, who had been snoring loudly, slowly opened his eyes and exclaimed,
"What? Where am I?"
"Good morning." I greeted Ken with a smile as he woke up surprised.
"This is our house." "Our home? But you were drinking with me and—"
"Yes, and then you passed out first." Ken muttered something under his breath, clearly not satisfied.
"Did I walk to the bed myself?"
"No.
I just happened to ask a friend of yours who was passing by to help bring you home."
Ken's face tightened slightly.
Is that so? Good timing then. I owe them one. I'll have to thank them. Oh, you know who your friend is without me even mentioning a name?
Ken looked as if he wished he hadn't said that. Clearly flustered.
No, well, I can guess who it might be since I often go out drinking with them.
I see.
For a moment there I thought. Thought what? Don't beat around the bush, just spit it out.
By now, Ken's lips were quivering, and he had gone pale. The confidence he had the night before was gone. He knew his plan had failed. And now, he was wondering how much I knew. Unfortunately for him, the answer is everything. I know everything.
Everything?
He is easy to understand. His voice cracked. I exhaled through my nose and stated firmly.
That you're a serial marriage scammer. What are you talking about?
Ken's face went from pale to white, forcing a dry laugh.
Marriage scam? What do you mean? We're legitimately married. We're a real family, right?
Yes, we're married. Technically.
But this marriage is just another one of your divorce plan schemes, isn't it?
Before we got married, I was shocked to learn that Ken had been divorced and had a child. But an even more astonishing truth awaited me. It turned out that Ken wasn't just divorced once, but 4 times.
Divorced 4 times. Ah, but rather, it's impressive that you managed to get married 4 times. Must have been to people like me who are easy to deceive. Wait, hold on. What are you talking about? Oh, don't know? Drink so much you lost your memory, perhaps?
I laughed mockingly, and Ken shouted that. That's it.
You can't drink, right? Why am I the one who passed out first? I get it, you used some sneaky trick. Cheater. Liar.
Ken glared at me. I glared right back.
Unlike you, I haven't used any underhanded tactics, nor have I lied. But you can't drink.
That's where he's mistaken. I've never once said I can't drink.
It's not that I can't drink. I choose not to.
Ken frowned and tilted his head.
That's just an excuse, right? Pretending to be strong despite being weak to alcohol. Weak to alcohol?
Who?
What?
I pulled out a can of beer from the fridge, popped it open, and downed it in one go.
It's the opposite. I'm too strong for alcohol. It's like juice to me. I can't get drunk no matter how much I drink.
Ken's mouth fell open in shock. Too bad.
That's why your plan with your friends failed miserably. Ugh.
Ken's eyes darted around.
I told you, I know everything.
His methods were insidiously terrible. The pattern was clear. Marry a woman who earns a decent amount and is supposedly weak to alcohol. Then create some pretext to take her to a fancy restaurant.
That place, it's a familiar high-end restaurant you've visited multiple times, right? The waitress mentioned it. You always bring a colleague who loves to drink, asking for dishes and desserts to include alcohol.
At that time, the waitress thought I was just one of Ken's colleagues, not his wife.
And you specifically requested that the cooking methods not allow too much alcohol to evaporate. Why? No, it's just that, I was trying to let her know how good the drink is,
Ken started to fumble with his words, making excuses. Even now, he's trying to wriggle his way out of the situation.
No, that's not it. You wanted your intoxicated wife to cheat in her drunken state, right?
It was a despicable scheme to get friends to hit on his drunk wife, creating the illusion of infidelity. That night, after we drank for a while, one of Ken's friends happened to pass by. Surprised to find Ken out cold, not me. After confronting Ken's friend, it turned out there was no actual infidelity. But compromising photos were taken, and with the woman's memory hazy from drinking, everyone struggles to outright deny it.
You used the fake infidelity and guilt you created to pressure your past wives into divorcing, all of whom paid up just as you asked.
How vile. Ken glared at me spitefully, but then smirked unexpectedly.
But this time it's different, right? Nothing actually happened.
as if he was claiming innocence because of that. I can't allow that to happen.
That's right, this time you just got too drunk.
Ken's lips curled slightly at my words.
See? All right. I'll change my ways. I've realized you're the only one for me.
There's Mireille.
Huh?
I repeated her name so Ken could hear clearly. Mireille.
Your ex-wife, who still has a close relationship with you, your partner in marriage fraud. Why would you? Don't make me say it again, all right?
I told you, I know everything. John had told me. Mom and Dad, they seem to meet every day. They don't have a bad relationship.
Then why?
I don't know, but they both said it was for money. The reason for their divorce remains unclear. Being a single parent does come with more support, but would someone divorce just for that? I wonder how much trouble John went through because of it. Even a 10-year-old child understood that his father was up to no good. That's why he sought help through hand signals from the waitress. But the waitress, unaware of its meaning, couldn't grasp what John was going through, making my heart ache.
So, this time I'll be the one who is asking from you. Huh? Why? After all the marriage fraud and cheating with your ex-wife, you think you can get away with it?
Ken bit his lower lip in frustration.
Ugh.
Yes,
and I'll be informing the police about your past wives too. I'm sure once they know the truth, none of them will ever forgive you. No way!
Ken collapsed on the spot like an octopus. If only he really were an octopus. I'd have loved to slice him up and scatter him across the sea. Ken readily agreed to the divorce after that. Moreover, it turns out he might have a child with Mireille. She's been pressing him for a remarriage.
But, is it really my child?
He wondered, but I couldn't care less. If he doubted it, he shouldn't have engaged in such acts. It's just more evidence of his infidelity for me. The alimony was paid in a lump sum. Luckily, it was Ken's bonus month, which was a relief. Ken had hoped for installments, but that would mean staying connected. No way I'd want that. I blocked his number. Rumor has it Ken's currently in a tight spot. After being sued by his ex-wives, one of them stormed into his office to expose everything. It forced him to resign and left him unemployed. Ken sold everything of value and ended up moving into Mireille's place to scrape by. Initially, Mireille, who had been pushing for remarriage, refused after seeing Ken's current state and now fights with him daily, demanding he leave as soon as possible. It's strange, considering how close they seemed while engaging in wrongdoing together for years. Hearing these rumors, I decided it was time for a job change. The thought of being targeted for revenge by them, now at their lowest, was no joke. Luckily, I had been invited to join another company, which I gratefully accepted. The salary wasn't much different, but the earlier finishing time was a bonus. Especially since I wasn't just looking out for myself anymore. Yes, after the divorce, I decided to take in John. The reason was simple. He begged me to.
I want to live a life I can be proud of. That's probably impossible if I stay with my mom and dad.
We have no blood relation and are still cautious around each other. More like roommates than a family. Yet, he started to smile more. And talks about his school life. Just hearing him share makes me incredibly happy, a curious aspect of motherhood. Pretending to go on a business trip due to suspicions of my husband's infidelity, I left the house open only to find him in bed with his mistress in our bedroom. After completely sealing the door shut, I invited the relatives over to show off our new house, and well. My name is Kate, I'm 35 years old. I work as an interior coordinator. Having been married for 5 years, I met my husband Tom through work. Initially, we would only meet occasionally for work, but Tom always brightened up the surroundings and was kind to everyone. I was drawn to his personality, and gradually, we became closer, realizing our values aligned perfectly, leading us to marriage. Tom, of course, and his parents were extremely kind, rejoicing in our marriage from the bottom of their hearts and treating me like their own daughter ever since. Having barely met his parents before our marriage, I was a bit anxious, but they turned out to be warm and welcoming people, which put my mind at ease. We thought it was important to live near such warm in-laws, to support each other in times of need, and so we decided to move. And now, we've finally purchased the tower apartment we dreamt of. When we got married, we had deep conversations about our values and future plans, agreeing that acquiring our ideal home was most important. Both of us working, we cherished our careers while sharing a common dream, a promise between us. Working as an interior coordinator, my income has been higher than Tom's since the beginning of our marriage, taking on more financial responsibilities. When buying the tower apartment, we didn't compromise in searching for one that met our desires. Focusing on stylish interiors, which exceeded our budget. However, as I climbed the career ladder, I eventually earned twice as much as Tom, deciding to purchase this apartment close to his parents to fulfill our dream. Busy with work, we agreed to save money now and consider having children later, so we don't have kids yet, but we're starting to think about it. The move to our dream tower apartment is scheduled in 2 weeks. Even with busy schedules, we spend evenings preparing for the move. Sharing household chores as a working couple. Though we vowed to tackle everything together at the start of our marriage, Tom has recently stopped helping with housework. Today, too, dishes lay unwashed, trash scattered around. Once again, I come home tired from work later than Tom to clean up. Left in a mess again. I'm tired from work too, I said while tidying up the living room.
Tom, can we talk? Is now a good time? Yeah, what's up?
Our relationship seems to have changed recently. We used to respect each other so much, right?
Yeah, that's true. But why bring this up now?
Don't you think your attitude has changed recently? We're supposed to support each other as a working couple.
I haven't changed. It's just that I've gotten a bit busier.
I get that you're busy, but even so, I feel like the care for our home and our time together is fading. That's an exaggeration. I haven't changed. We just bought our dream tower apartment, so we're gonna need to cooperate more, right? We have to work together to pay off the mortgage from now on.
Yeah, you're right.
The next day, tired, I drop off my work bag and see the laundry. Tom, who had the day off, is sitting on the couch watching TV. Tom, you promised you'd hang the laundry. It's already evening.
Sorry. Got a bit busy.
I'm tired from work every day too. I wish you'd help share the chores a bit. Okay, got it. I'll do it later. Time passes, and while I'm preparing dinner in the kitchen, I notice the laundry still hasn't been hung.
Tom, the laundry's still not done. It's almost night, you know?
Forgot about that. Got a bit tired. Can it wait till tomorrow?
I understand being tired, but I'm the same. We need to help each other out.
Yeah. But I really want to rest today. I'll do it tomorrow.
We talked about sharing household chores since we're both working, remember?
It's fine. You've been doing it, Kate.
If you don't help, I'm busy with work too.
All right. Let's end this conversation.
That's how you always escape.
Another usual morning. I sip my coffee, discussing today's schedule with Tom.
I've got back-to-back meetings today. Looks like I'll be home late. What about you? Actually, I've quit my job. What? Why? All of a sudden? What's the reason? Just didn't feel like doing it anymore. But what about our finances? Our future plans? We'll figure something out. Kate's working too. We decided to support each other by both working.
I know, but I was at my limit with the stress from work.
I have stress too, but I'm trying to get through it without running away. And you should have talked to me before quitting your job.
Well, I had already decided, and saying it wouldn't have changed my mind, right? I know. I'll look for another job. It's not as serious as Kate thinks. We'll figure it out.
We can't just figure it out. We have a mortgage to pay. Find a job quickly, okay?
All right, all right. Lately, my husband's become more selfish. Can marriage really change someone so much after 5 years? Another late night. I'm waiting in the living room. The clock already points past midnight, but Tom is still not home. The sound of the door unlocking. You're finally back. I was worried. Where have you been this late? Ah, sorry.
Just out drinking with some friends. We're about to move. We need to get things ready. Haven't you been coming home late more often?
It's just a breather. Don't pry so much.
How's the job hunt? Any prospects? Stop nagging. I'm stressed too.
I notice Tom's phone on the table. The screen lights up.
Today was fun.
A message pops up, adorned with a heart. And there's Tom, absorbed in his phone again. Seems like he's exchanging messages. With a woman.
Messaging again at this hour. It's none of your business. Don't snoop through my private stuff. Enough. I'm going to sleep.
Tom's nights out, his late returns, and his irritable reactions.
Something's definitely off.
And then, the day of the move came. In a flurry, we somehow managed to move. And so, we've moved into our long-awaited tower apartment. For this move, we also swapped out furniture for pieces that fit the room better, but my absolute favorite is this big queen-sized bed. I was particular about the sheets and duvet cover too. That day, I ended up falling asleep on the couch while tidying up things here and there. The next day, I was supposed to be on a business trip. I really can't miss this trip. Sorry, it's right after we moved.
Oh. I'm gonna be job hunting all day today anyway, won't be back till late. Good luck with the job search. Well, I'm heading out now. Okay, take care.
In reality, there was no business trip. I took a day off. And the purpose was to investigate Tom's actions. Pretending to go on a trip, I left the house and immediately started up the pet camera app from the cafe next door. I left 2 cameras disguised as part of the interior in the living room and bedroom. The installed cameras allowed me to watch what was happening at home through my phone. After a while, I heard a woman's voice, and Tom letting her into the living room.
Incredible, the real thing is just as amazing as the show apartment. I really want to live here. Who's this woman?
She works at the model house. She guided us when we visited the tower apartment.
Let's kick him out and live here together, just the 2 of us. When will you do it? Soon enough. Just wait a bit. Okay.
Such conversations were heard. So this is the real Tom.
Just as I thought. Making a fool of me? Unforgivable.
Meanwhile, the 2 seemed to have gone into the bedroom. Tom's affair partner, Susan, was the employee who guided us at the model house. Tom and Susan's relationship started on the day he visited the apartment for viewing. Tom, taking a liking to Susan, kept talking to her. Despite sensing my gaze, Susan continued with the tour. Tom kept visiting, and gradually their relationship became personal. I switched the pet camera to the bedroom. What I saw from there was like a scene from hell. Forced to watch everything, I felt sick to my stomach. But I recorded every bit of it. This is irrefutable evidence. Modern pet cameras are really well made and useful.
No escaping now. Time to go.
I head home. And enter the room. Clothes and underwear are strewn about the living room. I ignore them and head straight for the bedroom. Then, I open the door with a click.
Tom, what are you doing while I'm away? Kate. You said you were job hunting all day today, didn't you? Is this what you call job hunting? What are you doing in my house taking advantage of my absence? This is my house. If you have a problem, we can divorce right now.
What is this man talking about?
Fine. Just make sure you don't regret it later. Huh? What are you talking about?
Huh? Get out, now. I left the room. Getting angry won't change anything. But I can't let those two get away with this. That's it. I came up with an idea. I won't let them get away. I grab a toolbox and head back to the bedroom. They don't seem to notice me standing in front of the room. It seems they've started again. What's with them? But now's my chance. They seem completely unaware of my presence or any noise outside. I nailed the door shut, completely sealing it. Then, I decide to contact my in-laws. It's necessary for Tom's parents to know about his actions. So, I call my mother-in-law. Mom, we successfully moved in yesterday. Could you and Dad please come over soon? I'd like to show you our new place. Oh, that's wonderful. And, there's a significant announcement to make, so please hurry. What kind of announcement? You'll understand once you're here. All right. We'll head over right away. I'll meet you in the lobby, so please be careful on your way. It's just a stone's throw from my in-laws' house to this tower apartment, not even 10 minutes away. I greet them in the tower apartment's lobby. Dad, Mom, welcome and thank you for coming. What a lovely apartment. Thanks for inviting us. I'm excited to see what the new place looks like. We weren't sure how to get in, so it's good you came down. Now, what's this big announcement? You'll see once we get to the room. Under my guidance, we take the elevator up to our apartment. Please, this way. Thank you. We'll make ourselves at home. We entered. The shiny new entrance has flashy women's shoes placed around. Huh? Is someone here? Do you have friends over? No, Dad, Mom, please, come in. Oh, is that so? Well then, we'll come in. It seems my in-laws have also noticed the odd atmosphere. And as I lead them into the living room, they come face to face with the scattered clothing. What is this? What's going on? What happened? Dad, Mom, the reason I asked you two to come today is that there's something you need to know about Tom's actions. What's happening? Tom has been bringing his mistress into our home, taking advantage of the fact that I was supposed to be on a business trip. Tom is currently unemployed, and he said he was going to spend today job hunting. Tom is unemployed? Yes, he quit his job suddenly 2 weeks ago. I had no idea. Tom. I'm so sorry, Kate. Because of Tom's strange behavior, I lied about being on a business trip and have been keeping an eye on things. I showed them the pet camera disguised as decor in the living room. This is a camera? Yes, you can check the camera's footage through a smartphone app. I launched the smartphone app and show my in-laws the footage being recorded by the bedroom camera. Their own son and an unknown woman in an indecent state are displayed. Oh, what on earth? I can't believe this. My mother-in-law, seeing her son and his lover in such an unwelcome state, cries out in disdain. With my father-in-law shaking in anger, he says, "That guy? I'll never forgive him. Having an affair while Kate is here. And to bring his mistress to the new house we just moved into yesterday. It's unthinkable for my father-in-law, who is usually calm and kind, to imagine his son having an affair." Now, seemingly on the verge of exploding, he asks, "Kate, is this footage live?" Yes, right now, in the bedroom. Can you take us to the bedroom? Yes, of course. I lead my in-laws to the front of the bedroom door. Tom and Susan start panicking inside, possibly noticing because of my mother-in-law's shout. Tom, did you hear that? Is someone here? Eh? That can't be. Kate left. I'll go check. As Tom tries to open the room's door, he finds it won't budge. Huh? Why won't it open? Is it broken? He tries to open the door several times, but it doesn't open. I wonder why. If it comes to it, I'll just have to force it. Tom tried to force the door open, but it wouldn't budge at all. Why? Is it locked from the outside? Eh?
What's going on? Why won't it open?
Since I nailed it shut from the outside, it's no wonder the door won't open from the inside. Then, realizing something was amiss, Tom and Susan.
We need to get dressed. The living room.
Indeed, their underwear is strewn all over the living room. And there are no clothes or anything to change into in the bedroom.
What do we do?
That's when my father-in-law knocks on the door. Knock, knock.
Tom, you're in there, aren't you? With your mistress? Dad. What are you doing? Well. I can't forgive you for doing something like this.
They try to escape to the balcony and open the window, but this is the 30th floor of a tower apartment. There's no way down. And both of them are completely naked. In a panic, they wrap themselves in lace curtains and hide on the balcony.
Oh dear!
Their foolish attempt to hide is clearly visible through the pet camera.
I can't believe I married someone like this. It's almost laughable at this point.
Then, the moment of truth arrives. I remove the nails and unlock the door. Entering the bedroom with my in-laws. Tom and Susan are nowhere to be seen. Huh? Tom's not here? However, we know they're hiding on the balcony. We can just barely see Tom and Susan trying to hide, but I pretend not to notice and say, the balcony door's been left unlocked. How careless, and then I lock it. Really? If you don't lock the door properly, it's careless. With that, we all left the bedroom.
Did they lock us out? What on earth? Open up! I'm sorry. Please open the door.
The scene of Tom and Susan wrapped in just a lace curtain, screaming from the 30th floor balcony of the tower apartment. It would surely shock the neighbors.
How ridiculous. You two can reflect out there for a while.
After leaving them on the balcony for some time, I threw their clothes into the room and unlocked the balcony door. Naturally, my in-laws were furious. Or rather, they were beyond appalled.
Thank goodness. Why would you do such a thing? Aren't you ashamed? There's no one else who has been as good to us as Kate. I'm so sorry for my stupid son's behavior.
Mom, please don't apologize. This is an issue between Tom and me. As Susan hastily tries to change and leave, I tell her, you stay right here too. Then I play the recording of the conversation they had in the living room for everyone to hear.
Truly, beyond redemption.
Tom, you were planning to kick me out and live here with her, weren't you? Tom, now defiant, says, yeah, this house is mine, after all.
All right, let's divorce then. And of course, I'll be seeking alimony from both of you, so be prepared for that.
How he could misunderstand that this house would be his. And how an unemployed Tom would manage to pay is beyond me. I left the new apartment with a heavy sigh. There was sadness, of course, but more than that, I was resolved to do what needs to be done. I never imagined my life built up to this point would end in such a manner. However, it was time to look forward. To officially end my relationship with Tom, and for my own sake too. The next day, I immediately took action. First, I began by looking for a trustworthy lawyer. After researching on the internet, I found a law firm with a good reputation and quickly made an appointment for a consultation. On the day of the consultation, I visited the law office, nervous but explained everything calmly.
Kate, thank you for coming today. What can I assist you with?
The lawyer asked in a calm tone. I took a deep breath before starting.
My husband brought his mistress into our house on a day he thought I was away on a business trip. But the trip was a lie. I was actually monitoring his suspicious behavior. And I recorded the entirety of their affair with a pet camera.
I took out my smartphone and presented the recorded video and audio as evidence. The lawyer watched the footage intently. After listening to Tom and his mistress's conversation, he said quietly,
"These are very strong pieces of evidence. Please tell me about the impact on the household finances since Tom quit his job." "Yes, after my husband became unemployed, I've been supporting all our household expenses, including the down payment for the tower apartment. If the affair is as clear as this, claiming alimony is entirely possible. Additionally, I would like to discuss the tower apartment's mortgage. On that matter, during the divorce proceedings, we can address the mortgage responsibility as well. Tom will have legal obligations, so we will negotiate firmly on that part.
The time I spent with Tom, the love, and the dreams encapsulated in our new home, all turned into a place of betrayal in an instant. A home should be a place of comfort, but for me, that apartment had become a source of deep emotional pain.
I won't live in that house anymore. But we've just moved in, and there's hardly any of the mortgage paid off. Since my husband became unemployed, I've been making all the payments. We can demand Tom to take responsibility for the mortgage payments in addition to alimony. However, whether an unemployed him has the capacity to pay now or in the foreseeable future. I understand. But I can't spend another day in that house. And given the situation he has caused, he must take responsibility for it.
The lawyer accepted my request, incorporating full payment of the mortgage by Tom and appropriate alimony payments into the divorce settlement. Later, accompanied by the lawyer, I went back to the new tower apartment. My concerned in-laws came along for support. How audacious Tom and Susan were, still living in the tower apartment. The lawyer then calmly read out the terms of the divorce settlement. While they had no choice but to accept the alimony terms, this much? We can't pay all of this. That's when I showed them the video recorded by the pet camera, with audio included.
Here, we have solid evidence.
I pointed out the pet camera disguised as an interior decor piece.
I had one in the living room and one in the bedroom. That's an invasion of privacy. Privacy? That's rich coming from you. This house is mine. It's my right to place cameras if I want to. They're there to keep out burglars, though I ended up catching a very different kind of thief. Ugh.
Susan was left speechless. Then, in addition to alimony, the lawyer informed Tom that he would also be responsible for repaying the down payment and remaining mortgage payments I had made.
This house was almost entirely built according to Kate's wishes. It's unreasonable for me to bear all the costs. I really loved this house filled with my dreams. Then you should bear some of the burden too.
My father-in-law glared at Tom.
What are you talking about? What did you do in this house filled with Kate's dreams? Moreover, Kate isn't even living here. You invited your mistress into the house and acted inappropriately. Who would want to live in such a house? That's obvious. You need to take full responsibility for the situation you caused.
With the support of my in-laws, the divorce negotiations concluded in my favor. The divorce proceedings went ahead with mutual consent. Tom was obligated to repay the remainder of the mortgage and the down payment I had made.
I no longer consider you my son. We're cutting ties with you.
My in-laws decided to sever ties with Tom. Susan, who had been working as a receptionist at a model house, was implicated by the evidence of her affair with Tom that I had provided. An emergency meeting was called, and Susan was summoned.
Do you understand that your actions have significantly damaged the company's reputation? I'm very sorry. Your actions have severely tarnished our reputation. It will take time to restore trust from our clients. Unfortunately, we cannot keep you at the company. You will have to leave. Yes. I never thought it would come to this.
The divorce between Tom and me finally settled by mutual agreement, but the affair scandal between a client and an employee that came to light in the process was majorly covered by the company, and of course, Susan was fired. The inappropriate relationship in the tower apartment cost Susan her career. And in the end, she broke up with Tom. He was jobless and still unable to find a job. The burden of the mortgage payments loomed over him.
Looks like I have no choice but to sell this apartment.
He alternated between looking at the mortgage statement and the tower apartment sales advertisement.
It might sell for a high price. That could actually turn into a profit.
Then he went to negotiate the sale with a real estate agent.
The charm of a new building is significant, but its value begins to depreciate as soon as you move in.
Trying to reduce the loan burden by selling the tower apartment, he was overwhelmed by the size of the remaining debt. Even letting go of it, the remaining mortgage balance was still a heavy load.
Why is the mortgage the only thing remaining?
Still, the mortgage for the tower apartment was too high to afford, so he had no choice.
Kate was earning that much. I didn't know.
It was too late when he realized how grateful he should have been. Tom had no choice but to start life in a cheap rental apartment. My days after the divorce began with self-recovery. On a quiet morning, I was walking in my usual park. In nature, I slowly began to face myself and feel inner healing. One day, I happened to meet Ken at a photography store where we shared a hobby. The two of us easily engaged in conversation through our DSLR cameras.
Photography is wonderful because it preserves moments forever. Yes, it's truly art that transcends time.
Over time, we shared many moments through photography, gradually closing the distance between our hearts. Ken approached my past wounds with kindness and understanding. I found myself being drawn to such a caring Ken. Even after divorcing Tom, I continued to have a good relationship with his parents. They cared for me and we kept in regular contact, deepening our bond even more than before. They still treat me like their own daughter to this day. Today, I plan to introduce my fiancé, Ken, to my parents.
I never imagined days like this would come, not so long ago. Kate, spending peaceful times like this with you is the greatest happiness for me.
My career is going well. Ken has become a popular photographer. In fact, we have purchased a new tower apartment. It ended up being even more expensive than the previous tower apartment, but it's a wonderful apartment that includes everything Ken and I wanted. I go to the lobby to meet Tom's parents.
Hello, Kate. Your new painting is really lovely. Kate, it's good to see you well. Thank you for coming.
We then went up to the apartment together in the elevator.
Excuse us. Oh, hello there. Nice to meet you, I'm Ken. Oh, is that so? Dad, Mom, this is my fiancé. I promise to make Kate happy, so please rest assured.
He seems like a kind and wonderful person. Kate, you're lucky. Please take care of her.
We're like Kate's parents, so feel free to rely on us anytime. Kate, congratulations truly. I'm really happy for you. Be happy.
Tom's parents felt responsible for the pain I suffered because of Tom, but seeing me find a wonderful partner and looking happy gave them peace of mind. Ken is very kind and always puts me first. And as a working couple, we share all the household chores. Ken, who enjoys cooking, prepares delicious meals every day. Meeting Ken has filled my days with happiness. I am very happy now. I truly believe that marriage is wonderful.